I'm so grateful to earn the endorsements of my dear friends Daria Lisa and Claire for New York. We believe in a future where no one goes bankrupt when they get sick, where parents don't have to take out a loan to send their kids to college. Hell yeah. Terrible photography, sorry. Excuse me. The photography, what's important about this kind of photo is that the future looks bright. David Sirota trying to be you? Okay, don't say that. David is the GOAT. He's the OG. He's been there before I was shitting in my diapers. Did a weightlifting interview session with Abdullah say early this morning. I was absurdly outmatched. The dude was gracious. He did not weak shame me. Here we discussed his time at University of Michigan. Any more Abdul cringe? Did not know David lifted like that. Damn. Yeah, David Sirota.
Choice of them out, I did not feel great about it. But in hindsight, like what a gift to be able to spend 4 years living with these people who like unconditionally love you. Yeah. And can give you the long range on things. You know what I mean? Yep. And like the nice thing about grandparents versus parents is that they do a much better job of listening, non-judgmentally about you. You know what I mean? Your grandparents just totally care that you're happy. Totally. And like if you have a problem, they're like, huh, that's an interesting thing. I'm sure you'll figure it out.
Better biceps than you, to be honest, since we haven't seen yours in weeks, Suit Guy. Next Fear End on Monday when it comes out, I'll be wearing a Malak Kiros t-shirt, campaign shirt.
And sometimes they'll be like, you might want to think about this without your parents being like, you did what? How? Right? So it was actually great. I loved it.
I mean, in-state tuition in your family at Michigan is like...
I think one of the lesser discussed aspects of Abdul is the fact that as an Egyptian American, at this stage in his life, his hairline should have perished, and it has not. Okay? I know he complains about his beard and like the fact that he can't grow a big one. But honestly, I think that's a totally fair trade-off. I would rather have the hairline intact in the way that he does and then not be able to grow like a full beard. I think it's a super underrated and super not discussed element here because let's be real, especially for Egyptian unks, dude, at this age, past the point of like 31, 32, if you're Egyptian, you're going bald. I think hog beards have deterred you. What do you mean? I only know bald Egyptians. As a matter of fact, now that I'm thinking about it, the only Egyptian I know that isn't bald is Abdul. Which is kind of crazy. He took the hairline of every Egyptian on the planet. Oh, I guess Bassem. Bassem has a great... But Bassem is Hollywood. That doesn't count. I should ask him about that. Hamawi slander? That's true. Hamawi has hair too. All right. So this is unbelievable. Mayor Mamdani kicked off New York City outdoor pool season today by jumping in the Thomas Jefferson pool in East Harlem.
2, 1, jump into the pool!
Ridiculous. I mean, he's in great shape, though. Like, he is in great shape. We saw the legs, not so great, but he's in great shape overall. But this is fat kid behavior. Okay? Sorry. This is what I used to do when I was growing up because I was so embarrassed to be in the pool without my shirt on. You don't have to do that, man. He's like you. We'll never see him out of a suit ever again. Bro, that's so funny. Dude, this is so funny. He's in a suit in the pool shaking hands with his constituents. Okay? I'm sorry. This is such a funny moment. He's always the man. Look, even his staff is like, what are we doing, man? He has the greatest optic sense in politics, no question. Yes, he's killing it. He also did show, like, he showed that he can swim, right? Like, that's also important. Like, he's capable of swimming. He showed his swimming prowess there. You know, couple strokes. Good stuff. He's not leaving anything on the table. Hope he didn't have his phone in his pocket. Yeah, I'm sure he took it out. No, he just dove in there with the phone. Fuck it. YOLO. Oh God, I can't say YOLO. What am I doing? I'm such a fucking millennial boomer. Cringe maxer. Jesus Christ. Yeah, he's a real suit guy. Okay? He's a real suit guy. I will never be a suit guy to this degree. It's virtually impossible for anyone to maintain the being a suit guy to that degree. All right. Anyway, we've blasted off. We millennials. Yeah, no, that's the motto. YOLO. So cringe. I'm fucking cringe. I hate myself. I'm such a chud ass loser. Anyway, we're blasting off. We're blasting off. Future looks bright. Have you seen him? He's gone. Most of this chat is millennial. I mean, millennials are kind of making socialism hot in a big way. You made Zoran so insecure he went beyond t-shirt in a pool. Nah, I think it's good. I think I'm on board with the suit in the pool. He's just a suit guy, man. He's just that's his thing. He's always in a suit.
Thank you to Goodwill. Appreciated the suit that we got. It's actually not as cold as you'd think. It's perfect.
Do you think TYT helped you in being known? Yes. I hate you suit motherfuckers. Bro, it's the new meta. Okay? I realized that in the 2020s, during the COVID era, I had a lot of fucking influence power. And I made a lot of dudes grow their hair out, paint their fingernails, wear a lot of jewelry, which is fine. I love jewelry. I still wear jewelry. But if I can get the dudes to move into the suit game and the suit era and we connect these sorts of sartorial choices with socialism, it's good. We get the boomers on board. Okay? New Justice Demzad attacking Diana. Genocide to get released. Let's go. Y'all body shamed him when he wore shorts playing soccer, so he has to live in his suit now. Okay, that's crazy. Speaking of soccer, hold on. Where is it? Where the hell is it? I had it right here somewhere. There's also this. Regardless of whether you agree with those policies or not, you have to admit that we have not seen a politician interact with constituents like this in a very long time. This is exactly why it continues to garner popular support. This is what he's doing here is positively British. Okay? British politicians do this all the time. Of course, when Zoran is doing it, he's doing it in a more organic, like more natural manner because he does legitimately play football. This is also very risky. Because you can have a cool moment like that, but you can also have a very bad moment where you fall on your ass. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of people that have had, football mishaps. Imagine him spraining an ankle. Yeah, here it is. This was one of my favorites. Boris Johnson tackling a little Japanese boy during a rugby match. Just absolutely trucking him, dude. Bro, gave the kid a concussion. Beast mode. Another Boris Johnson moment.
What was that? Is that Boris Johnson? He's just milking a German. Now he's getting a pat in the bum from Ray Wilkins. What is going on?
What the hell? Is that Boris Johnson? I've never seen this before.
Is that Boris Johnson? He's just milking a German. Now he's getting a pat in the bum from Ray Wilkins.
And now he's getting a pat in the bum from Ray Wilkins. What is going on?
What is going on? I mean, what was going through his mind? Other than the German's nutsack, obviously.
He's coming home. He just milking a German. Your favorite politician, Rutte, fell as well. God, this language, man. This language. It's just so strange to me. Mark Rutte. Mark Rutte. Anyway. I made a website with stats about your years of streaming. Can I send it? Smile. Sure. Yeah, Dutch is the fakest language of all time. I know all language is fake, whatever, but like Dutch is the fakest. Yeah, Gavin Newsom had a moment too. Remember this?
Some awkward moments during Governor Newsom's China trip over the weekend.
He's like low-key not bad. It's just that those shoes on that court, because like this is clean. Look, he starts off real clean. Like that actually shows solid fundamentals. Like he absolutely has handles, which makes me want to play ball with him. Look.
China trip over the weekend. He was showing off his basketball moves with a group of students when he lost his footing, took down a child.
And then he smacks the kid's bum.
Lost his footing.
Why are you doing this? That's not a good recovery, man. You almost caused the international incident. He took out a child on the way down, a Chinese boy. And then he immediately rolls with him.
With a group of students when he lost his footing.
And then he just starts smacking him in the bum. Dude, we gotta get. I want to see a lineup of politicians playing ball. Like starting five. Barack Obama has to be there. I mean, he's clean. He's cold. He is a lights out shooter. I would see him. I would put him up there as like maybe who would be the point guard? Gavin Newsom definitely up there. Bernie is shooting guard? No. I mean, Bernie is, come on. Okay, I was talking like serious, solid fundamentals. I'm talking about dudes who actually ball. Not like, Bernie can shoot basketballs, but he plays like a 80-year-old. You know what I mean? Someone said Osama bin Laden at center. Yeah, I don't think Osama bin Laden is making this starting five. I mean, he's dead, allegedly. Hakeem the Dream Jeffries. I don't know if Hakeem Jeffries balls. I don't think he's a basketball guy. I think he might be like a baseball guy. I don't know. Kirk MAGA rap. Oh my God. You have been spamming the living fucking titties off of this video. Are you the guy who made this video, Jay Mershon? Oh my God, you have been spamming this so much for like the last week. No, I just carry the flame. Okay. How do we get here? Oh, we were looking at Zoran playing soccer. Football. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we got the political compass test. We got it all. We got North Korea's actually booming. And so much that like Wall Street Journal wrote an article about it, covering it positively. And new Just Democrats ad. Also, Buttheimer. DSA wants a war with common sense Democrats. Like they're running around saying that they got the alternative, they got the solution, and they've set up a new caucus against the DSA. Another one. Okay? Mamdani, crazy socialist, focus on sowing chaos, delivers a 2-year rent freeze as promised. Gaheimer, common sense, focused on affordability. Torpedoed Biden's Build Back Better agenda for lower cost childcare, obsessed with censuring Hassan Piker and Rashida Tlaib. These guys have never had any common sense. They've never delivered results, and they don't give a rat's ass about affordability. They're obsessed with big donor networking, self-promotion, and factional infighting. Everything they say is projection is true. 100%. Please talk about the Venezuelan earthquake situation as dire as you can, please. Yes, I will talk about it later today. I already talked about it yesterday. I have talked about it. And we're looking to set up a fundraiser as well. The new pack is the Israel pack. Yeah, I saw. It's awesome. The Promise to America pack is basically the Promise to Israel pack, straight up. Comrades, congrats on our big close primary win in a district. Kamala won by 59 points. We'd love to hear your objections to the content of the Promise to America. Let us know a time that works for you to Zoom next week. Send me Josh Gottheimer. Send me Josh Gottheimer, Playboy. Yeah. Send the video. Send me location. Send me location. Josh Gottheimer. Come on the broadcast. Explain to the world. Explain to me and the world. Shock the world with this Promise to America. Drop the Addy. Drop the Addy, Playboy. Let's see what you got. Anyway, SCOTUS TPS ruling. SCOTUS TPS ruling. Yes. Jamie Dimon being a demon and talking about dollar as a reserve currency. JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon on the dollar as reserve currency. Oh, here we go. Scott Wiener has been getting bullied all around San Francisco, which has been kind of funny. He's been getting bird dog nonstop, but it also feels like it might backfire on the people bird dogging him because he just looks so sad every time. Because for people who don't know, Scott Wiener is like obviously very pro LGBTQ. Like that's the one area that he has been, you know, he has gone above and beyond. He's gay himself. And it's they kind of bully him a little bit everywhere he goes, where he just tries to go to these like woke spaces in San Francisco, like a trans march or whatever. And of course, every woke person in San Francisco is like, fuck you. You're a genocide enjoyer. You're a genocide supporter. And it's true, for the record. Scott Wiener is a supporter of the Israeli state. The idea that he's like now acknowledged the genocide is bullshit. Like, I give a lot more credit to Brad Lander because Brad Lander has always been, you know, like there's a difference between Brad Lander being like, I'm a liberal Zionist, but Israel has done a genocide and we must abolish the occupation. Like when Brad Lander says that, like there is truth behind that sentiment. Like, sure, it's contradictory to be like, I'm a liberal Zionist, but also fucking, you know, Israel's an occupation. But with Scott Wiener, 100%, up until the moment that Scott Wiener wanted to take Nancy Pelosi's seat, he was literally one of the biggest dick riders of Israel, straight up. And only when he realized he has an election that he has to win, and there's no shot he can win that election if he still denies Israel's genocide, that he changes position, and it's not real, right? Scott Wiener recently came around to acknowledging the genocide in Gaza after being critical but not explicit. His acknowledgement provoked outrage from Zionists, leaving him to resign from the Jewish caucus. He's been repeatedly bird dog recently, each time non-reactive. It honestly reads to me like he's letting it happen to give people who are upset their space. Like he's on an atonement tour. The rage is a challenge. Will he backtrack as they think he will, or continue towards diligent advocacy regardless of what pressures may come? I don't trust him at all. I don't trust him at all. Okay? I think it's bullshit. I think it's total bullshit. His acknowledgement of genocide comes in the context of electoral campaign, which has colored his pivot as politically advantageous rather than authentic realization. I assume the only course correction acceptable would be for Wiener to end his campaign. Consequence for not calling a genocide sooner. No, it's because it's not just an acknowledgement of genocide. It's everything that he did before this acknowledgement of a genocide that is totally like shit that Brad Lander never did, right? Like Scott Wiener after October 7. I'm going to give you an example of Brad Lander, who is a liberal Zionist, a self-described liberal Zionist, and like all of the things that he has done that is very critical of Israel and very good overall, really pushing the conversation in the direction of truth. And then a person who is simply doing this for optics. Scott Wiener is doing this for optics, and here's why. Because Because Brad Lander never, flew to Israel after October 7 and hug and kiss the president of Israel, right? Scott Wiener did do that. Brad Lander never pushed for a bill within, the confines of his power to censor pro-Palestinian speech. Scott Wiener did that in the California state legislature, right? So there is a truth to, I think, the way that Brad Lander operates in the space. There's an honesty to it, and I will defend that. I will defend his sentiment, and while I will still be very critical when he when he makes critical investments into Elbit Systems to the tune of $1 million of New York taxpayer money, which is completely unacceptable, right? And even back in January, Scott Wiener could not come to terms with the fact that Israel had done a genocide.
Is Israel committing genocide in Gaza?
Yeah. I mean, this is an unacceptable position in a safe blue district regardless. Like, it's just not going to work, right? And he knows it's not going to work, which is why he had to, change his mind, make it seem like he had a come to Jesus moment, to use a Brandonian term. But the thing is, now he says it is a genocide, which is, annoyed a lot of the Zionist groups as well, where they're like, you're sucking up to these Jew haters and they still hate you because you're Jewish and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And I don't think he's going to garner a lot of sympathy from people who are anti-genocide and anti-Zionist or anti-Israel in any capacity, regardless, right? So he's kind of cooked. He has positioned himself in this strange place, and now anytime he goes to these spaces, these queer spaces especially, of course, a lot of these people are anti-Zionist. These queer spaces are organized by anti-Zionists. Of course, it makes sense. People who want to defend marginalized people in America are obviously going to want to defend marginalized people in Palestine. Why the fuck wouldn't they? We are morally consistent on this stuff. A lot of reactionaries don't understand. They're like, if you're gay in Gaza, you'd be thrown off of a roof. It's like, first of all, that's not true. Okay? You just made that shit up because you're like, they're all Muslim and all Muslims do this. They're all Muslims are ISIS. It's a fucking heinous, racist ass statement to begin with. And secondly, the number one fear for queer people in Gaza is not Hamas. It's fucking Israeli munitions, okay? That's it. Yeah, they can't do a pride parade in Gaza because Israel blew up all the fucking roads. So I don't believe that, the arguments against this stuff is very stupid. It's very surface level, and unfortunately that kind of stuff works for a lot of people who haven't really considered these issues at all. But yeah, Scott Wiener is otherwise a very progressive guy, for the record. Like, he has a lot of progressive legislation in his track record, but his position on Israel is beyond the pale, like completely unacceptable. He also is favored by the real estate lobby as well, and that, to me, is also not great. I don't think he's I don't know if he'd be a strong advocate for Medicare for all and things like that. But I certainly do not believe his change of heart on the issue of Israel. He isn't adopting a position of Jewish victim to distract from or minimize genocide. Right-wingers are trying to apply that framing to him, but he isn't. While right-wingers point to these videos as proof that anti-Zionists aren't worth appeasing, what I think this is, and why I think Wiener is remaining neutral but clearly listening instead of fighting for it to stop, is this him taking his lumps. They yell at him because he's accessible and takes it because he was slow to call a spade, And this path of non-reactivity lets those hurt by his choices express that hurt. It's not a response we generally see from politicians. We've come to expect a sort of dismissive hostility. Pelosi, for example, called local anti-genocide protesters puppets to China and Iran. Cynical or genuine, Weiner seems to have chosen a much more human course. Yeah, I think this is very charitable. Scott is the most arch pro-Israel politician in California government, especially in the wake of the genocide. His reluctant use of the word was in response to being booed at the debate and his pure self-preservation. Why disassembler is one of those like unironic like schizo crypto leftist posters on Twitter, but you know he's like a fucking pit bull. He's like a piranha on the Scott Weiner shit. So I'm not gonna be too critical of him. He hates Shoykot as well. There are a lot of lefties or left adjacent people in San Francisco. They've had their minds melted by the tech fascists completely eviscerating the socialist movement there, unfortunately. But yeah, Talia says he's definitely not the most pro-Israel politician in California government. Him doing the bare minimum that others can't doesn't mean applaud. I'm examining the context of social movements and their impact manifestations and how people cornered by them react. So let's watch this video. Here's Scott Weiner showing up to the Trans March. This is another one of those guys that fucking hates me and hates Shoykot. It's so funny. I have like my little band of villains that despise me in San Francisco because of my push for Shoykot.
Scott, I think your legislation on trans issues and your legislation specifically protecting queers on the sex offender registry is fantastic. Like, I really applaud you for that, and I think you deserve to be here for that. But I think your housing policy and specifically your...
Yep. That's the other thing. I don't know what the San Francisco left opposes more. People who are pro-Israel or fucking yimbies. I swear to guys, I'm telling you right now, the San Francisco left is like if you're a yimby or yimby adjacent, they literally will look at you like you are Benjamin Netanyahu, okay? It's so... As someone who stays out of this conversation and always says, I don't care, I want more housing, I want more public transit, and I want it to be fucking government funded, okay? I don't, like, I understand some of the NIMBY elements. Like, I understand retooling the existing inventory of housing to actually be utilized by the local population that's getting priced out. As someone who understands the dangers of gentrification, I have, I guess NIMBY adjacent feelings on that front, but I also am a guy who wants to build more housing. Okay. I want to build more housing. I want publicly funded housing, as a matter of fact. YIMBY NIMBY distinctions, we've talked about it endlessly. San Francisco leftists get so mad when I bring it up. I get it. I get where that anger is coming from. If you grew up in San Francisco, as many of my friends have, many of my wonderful socialist San Francisco leftist, San Francisco socialist friends that grew up there. I've had these conversations with them. I know where their anger is coming from because they attribute like new housing or the YIMBY position to the pro-tech, pro-real estate developer, like pro-gentrification initiative that has basically priced them out of San Francisco, a city that they love, that they grew up in. And for them, they associate all kinds of YIMBY positions, or any kind of any kind of push for more housing development to be like the tech fascist, the neo-fascist, tech feudalist, the neo-feudalist tech overlord position.
housing policy aligning with Yimby's, and I think your policy, and I think your policy on the genocide in Gaza, and I think your policy on the genocide in Gaza is terrible. I think you do not belong here. I think you do not belong here. You do not belong here, Scott, anymore.
By the way, John Levine posted this fucking photo and said this is just like anti-desegregationists, like white supremacists yelling at like a black woman during the period of desegregation. And it's like, no, it's not actually. Like, that's literally a visibly queer person flipping off a fucking a member of the state legislature over their position on Israel, Palestine, on a fucking genocide. It's actually the exact opposite. You can't just literally run this meta over and over again sincerely. You can't just like actually consistently claim that people who are pro-Israel are actually just like black people in the Jim Crow South. I don't know why people are so confident. Matt Lieb had a very funny meme about this, which, you know, harkens back to the correct position from Julian. Same energy, says John Levine. Yeah, dude. Yeah, Julian Casablanca's vindicated once again. American Zionists get the benefits of white privilege, white privileged people, but talk like they are black people during slavery. One of the best takes of all time. Okay? Like, one of the best takes of all time. It's so real. It's so funny. I don't think Scott Wiener would agree with this. Okay, this is such an insanely out of pocket tweet. Yeah, really. The person with the privilege here that is yelling at a member of the state legislature is actually the privileged party here. That's what you're saying. All of the power is in the hands of, like, you know, NB Vemperors in San Francisco that are fucking baristas who have an opinion on Israel's genocide. That's who holds the cards in American society, guys.
It sucks because you've been wonderful. You've been wonderful for trans people, and you've been terrible. And you've been terrible. You've been terrible. You've been terrible on Gaza. You do not belong here anymore, Scott, and it breaks my fucking heart. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart.
I don't know why he thought he could go to one of the most woke spaces in San Francisco and think that it would be fine. I don't know. Maybe he wants these videos to exist. Maybe he's getting his licks in, like he's just getting people to yell at him. Maybe he's farming sympathy. I don't know. I don't know what's going on here, but like, of course this is going to happen. What are you thinking? This is like if I went to a Klan rally, okay? They would probably kill me, all right? This is like if I went to fucking CPAC. You know? I know what's going to happen if I go to CPAC. They're going to yell at me quite a bit. No, Hassan, we support you. No, of course, if I went to this place, this space, there would be some fucking weirdos who would be like, you're a Yimby or something, which it would be funny. But there would be overwhelming support. These are my people. I'm saying, like, Scott Wiener going to a trans parade or a trans, like a pro-trans rally in Dolores Park is like me going to a fucking Klans meeting, okay? They're gonna yell at me. They're gonna know who I am, and they're not gonna be happy that my presence is acknowledged in that space.
Someone who wrote good legislation for queers is so fucking terrible on Gaza. Scott, do you have anything to say? Do you have anything to say about Gaza? How could you do this to San Francisco? How could someone like you do this to San Francisco? Scott, say something. Redeem yourself. Do something. Scott, I want to like the
If Hassan went to a gamer convention, okay, shut the fuck up.
person who had such good legislation on trans rights.
You're a piece of shit. We fucking hate
Scott,
you.
I want to support someone who's so positive on trans rights, but you're a piece of shit on Gaza. How could you do that? How could you betray queers? How could you oppress people?
Yeah, I mean, this is catnip for like the centrists who were very shy about revealing their position on Israel because it's pro-Israel. Because they see this video and they go, see, you can't appease these monsters. You can't appease these monsters. They'll harass you endlessly, right? Like that's basically what this is for a lot of like the reasonable liberals who are pro-Israel, right? Like all these people are being so uncivil to our big, beautiful boy. There was also the restaurant one. That's another one. U.S. congressional candidate Scott Wiener has been was harassed by a Free Palestine activist. Scott, who is Jewish, had changed his stance on Israel, parodying the typical Free Palestine rhetoric in order to get easy votes. It turns out, to nobody's surprise, that he still isn't spared from falling under the Zionist label that the Free Palestine crowd uses. One of the funniest parts about this, by the way, there are varying degrees of I guess, anti-Zionist advocacy and activism in this space. I think these guys would probably lose their minds if they heard some people say, I'm a normalizer or I'm a Zionist, right? Especially considering that, you know, for Hen Mazik and a lot of the big donors in the Zionist movement, I'm public enemy number one, right? I'm Mr. Hasanabi. And yet there are plenty of people who yell at me because I'll say stuff like, I think Brad Lander is sincerely critical of Israel, and yet there's an inconsistency born out of his, social conditioning. And I think, you know, he's on his own journey. And that, for a lot of people, is automatically enough for them to be like, no, you're a normalizer. You're a fucking Zionist. You love Israel. You're basically doing genocide, right? There are different strokes for different folks. I mean, there are plenty of people who get mad at Zoran. Zoran is, Zoran is a person who's like first. Zoran is a person whose entry point into political advocacy was literally starting his own Students for like Justice for Palestine chapter in Bowdoin College, right? And yet, because of his moderation on some of his speech, a lot of people are unbelievably critical of Zoran. There's also things to criticize Zoran, like sincere criticisms of Zoran. Even though he has a tremendous number of W's that he has gotten since he became mayor, but, keeping Jessica Tisch on the job, kind of a whopping L. Not disbanding the SRG, Strategic Response Group, kind of a whopping L, right? Those are big L's. Let's be real. Adding more cops to the NYPD payroll after saying he's going to keep the head count. It's a big reversal on a campaign promise. So, no, I don't think endorsing Kathy Hochul is an L. That was politics. He got something out of that. The question is the Tisch allegiance worth it? Maybe we'll find out in the future. He's done a bunch of things that I've been critical of, and then he's actually proven me wrong. So maybe. Criticizing Zoran for NYPD policies while understanding why it makes sense. Criticizing Zoran for not being sufficiently pro-Palestine doesn't make sense to me. No, there have been some instances where Zoran has fallen short or I think gotten too scared about revealing his position on the pro-Palestinian cause. I think like him hyper focusing on the anti-Zionist protesters outside of a synagogue that were saying, you know, pro-Hamas chants, while the Kahanis were literally on the other side talking about how they want to rape Zoran, was fucking insane. That was a massive L. Okay? The real issue in that moment is the fact that there's a settler fair taking place inside of yet another synagogue in the city of New York. Okay? That's a far, far larger issue than the Kahanis even saying they're going to rape Zoran Mamdani. I think that is the issue, right? Anything that takes the attention off of that and you know, criticizes the optics of people protesting against that is ridiculous. I don't agree. That was a big big criticism that I had. But in any case, I think it's just that's you know, that's not as significant. Anyway, there's another Scott Wiener moment getting yelled at. I gotta pee.
Get the fuck out my hood, bro. It's free Palestine here. You already know what it is. We against the genocide. You think you're gonna come to my neighborhood, bro? You fucked up. You fucked up. It's gonna be a problem. There's innocent children being killed in Palestine. You don't come here like it's good. But you're pushing that genocidal agenda as a Zionist, bro. Free Palestine. Say free Palestine right now on camera, dog. Say it. 2026. I don't need to talk about none of that shit. I'm talking to him. This is a mission district. You should be ashamed. You have no shame coming to my community. This is a mission district, homie. Free Palestine, bro. Hey, are you trying to defend him? I don't want to talk to you. I'm talking to him. Why are you not saying nothing? Why are you not saying nothing, bro? Why are you not saying nothing? Say free Palestine for the camera, dog. You say you're against the genocide, right? That's what you said? Because you're running for office? Say free Palestine then. Say free Palestine. You can put your face on camera, but you can't speak on his behalf. You're a politician, right? You're a senator. You're a position of power. This is what you thought, bro. You come to the mission district, you will get called for the bullshit you do to our people. Maybe everyone here doesn't know what you've done, but I know. Mario Woods, Alex Nieto, Luis Gongora, when they were killed by SAPD, you didn't stand for them. You were silent. Silent as our people got gunned down in these streets. And you come to my community and you think it's okay. It's not okay, bro. It's not okay. Say free Palestine. I'm giving you the opportunity to say that shit right now. I don't want to hear nothing but the words free Palestine. You can't say it. You still get APAC money because I heard you say you didn't, but then someone put it on you and say you did. Just say free Palestine.
Why is he like this? I don't know. I don't know why his response to this is just to be like, oh, I got nothing. Wonder what's going on through his mind. Maybe that he should not have pushed for a provision that punishes, pro-Palestinian speech in the state of California. Or maybe he should not have traveled to Israel to sit alongside the president of Israel. What do you want him to do? Fight the person? I mean, he's getting bird dog, right? It's an awkward strat. This has happened to me too from nuisance streamers, right? And it's just like, it's an awkward situation. It's an awkward situation. The opposition kind of looks crazy if they're just like yelling at you like that. But it's only if you, only if you can manage the situation by, like, I don't know, cracking a joke or something. Like I've done it when people were bird dogging me when I did the Charlie Kirk thing. If you remember, I was like, I didn't advocate for Charlie Kirk to die. I carry the flame. I don't think you guys are carrying the flame like that. That's like one way to What is this? No. Have you seen these fish? No, that's why I think it's mackerel or trout. I cannot confirm the fish. Have you considered I own this apartment? What is happening? What are you guys talking about? His apartment smells like fish? What?
Are you against the murders of innocent children, innocent people getting killed in Palestine? If you are, then you will say free Palestine. If you're not, then you'll stay silent like you are. There's no other words. You want to talk? I want him to leave.
No, we're ready.
I want him to leave.
Look, can we have a conversation like face to face?
I want him to leave.
No, I think we all should have a
Hey,
conversation.
this is my hood, bro. This ain't no your hood. You're not from here.
Yes,
Where were you born and raised?
we are all from here.
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to him. You say free Palestine. See, y'all can't say free Palestine. I wanted to get kicked out of here, bro. Leave, dog. Hey, winner, leave, bro. You know what it is.
I don't think people are owed rehabilitation in politics, and I also don't trust Scott, and I don't want him to win because of his pro-Israel advocacy. But is there anything someone with his past could do to gain trust and not have this kind of thing happen? He called out the genocide and demanded an end to aid. Is it just cook no matter what / Jen? I think the extent of your advocacy for Israel has to match your extent of advocacy for Palestine and Palestinians. And it's never going to happen, but the equivalent would literally be for him to be pro-Hamas. Okay? If you're pro-Israel during the genocide, you have to be pro-Hamas when you're anti-genocide. If you were, maybe ambiguously pro-Palestine, but also kind of pro-Israel at the same time during that period, you need to literally be, you need to match that same energy. If you are weighing on the side of Israel, then you have to ambiguously weigh on the side of the Palestinian resistance. It's just not going to happen. But I think that's like, because look, it's not that difficult. You want to fucking show you're legit? There's plenty of opportunity for you to show that you're legit. Say you're on board with an arms embargo, for example. You know what I mean? You don't have to be pro-Hamas, obviously, especially if you're running for office in America. That's a joke. But like, there are positions that you can adopt that are actually going to show people who are paying close attention to this issue that you are a lot more real than other people. Of course, it's not going to happen, but, Yeah, if you wore an Israeli flag suit, you got to wear a keffiyeh patterned onesie. Yeah. Because, like, what a lot of people don't understand is, like, if you're calling what Israel's doing a genocide, then you have to demand accountability. Otherwise, you're saying, yeah, no, Israel's doing a genocide, but it's fine. I'm fine with that. It's cool. Like, that makes no sense. What are you, fucking Benny Morris? Like, new historian, Israel, one of the Israeli new historians, Benny Morris, who was like, Israel did an ethnic cleansing in 1947 and 1948, but it was good because it developed the nation state. Do you see what I mean? It doesn't make sense.
You know what it is. If I leave, you gotta leave with me, dog. Hey, bro, you think if you don't leave, we're not gonna wait for you outside? Say free Palestine. Mario Woods, Alex Nieto.
It's like when Biden declared the situation in Sudan a genocide, but continued to send weapons to the UAE. That doesn't make any sense. Exactly. Well, shit, that applies to Lander. It's a genocide, but we made money from providing the arms for it. No, I agree. Dude, why do you think I'm still critical of Lander while also offering him support when he's being unjustly maligned and being called a fucking parasite and shit by other Zionists? Like, that's my point. My point is that there is an inherent contradiction that doesn't make any sense. And I don't think Brad Lander will stay on that position. Like, I don't think he's going to justify or demand that further money flow into Israeli companies and whatnot. I don't think he's going to do that going forward, especially because he has said certain things that no one that would consider themselves to be a Zionist would say. He said things that go beyond what Bernie Sanders has said. Saying we must end the occupation is not just a statement, okay? It's a statement that holds power. That's why people shy away from saying it. That's why I'm saying, like, Brad Lander is not, like, I go back and forth on it, but I don't think he's anywhere near as bad as, like, the overwhelming majority of congresspersons. Does that make sense? And the occupation is just two-state stuff, isn't it? No, what? Saying Israel's an occupation and we must end it, Israel's an apartheid state and we must abolish it? When have you heard any fake two-stater say shit like that? No, not at all. These guys, a lot of these dudes won't even admit, like, a lot of people that are critical of Israel won't even admit that Israel's done a genocide, let alone admit that Israel's an apartheid state, because the admission that comes along with Israel being an apartheid state also lends credence to the argument as to why October 7 happened to begin with. Those are the reasons why a lot of people that want to maintain some kind of, like, critical, I'm critical of Israel, but I still love Israel ass attitude, they don't say those words for that reason, because if you say Israel's doing a genocide, then yeah, you got to hold them fucking accountable. All of a sudden, people are going to be like, all right, well, it's time to hold Israel accountable then. What about an arms embargo? What about sanctions on Israel? They don't want to say that. They don't want to do that. And the same thing goes for the acknowledgement of Israel's apartheid. If Israel's an apartheid state, then of course people are going to militarily resist an apartheid state. There has never been a moment in history throughout the world where people have not taken up arms against an apartheid state. Part of that militant resistance is what happened on October 7. An atrocity, certainly, okay? War crimes, an atrocity. But at the end of the day, the standard of violence is maintained by the colonial occupier. And the resistance matches that level of violence and evolves throughout time. That's how it goes. I used to fall asleep to you playing Red Dead at 11 p.m. with 300 viewers. Hell yeah. Hassan, I got the 8 years following notification last night. Shout me out, please. Damn, follow me for 8 years, only subscribe for 5 months. That's crazy. No, I'm just kidding. Connie shot herself in the foot with that because people don't really trust her either. Yeah, here's the difference with between Connie's background and Connie's track record, though. Obviously, she was nowhere near as bold as Shroikot was on the issue of Israel. However, Connie at least has not only advocacy, but like a legislative track record that you can point to in terms of demanding a ceasefire, in terms of like, in terms of pushing for bills that are anti-Israel, right? That is part of it. I think he has concluded that Israel must be stopped. However, he's unsure of how that just fits in his lifelong indoctrination on the topic. Ergo, he just concludes that it must be stopped now. The rest he can figure out later. Yeah, you're talking about Brad, right? Yeah. Huh. Anyway, me, I support Medicare for all, reproductive rights, gun safety, ending Citizens United, universal child care, taxing the rich, increasing the minimum wage, fighting mass incarceration, abolishing ICE, access to free education at all levels, investing in affordable housing, stopping U.S. involvement in wars, paid leave for all workers' unions, abolishing the Electoral College of the left. You're the right of Pinochet. Yeah. The reason why people say that, Shannon, is because you are to the right of Pinochet in your defense of Israel. Israel's to the right of Pinochet. And if you defend a nation state that is doing things to the right of Pinochet, then yeah, of course people are going to say you're to the right of Pinochet. What the fuck do you mean? Yes, Progressive Accept Palestine used to work because most people didn't know what the fuck Israel was up to. Most people didn't know what Palestine was, right? That's it. It used to be its own thing in the progressive movement, in the left movement, and I hated it. And I would talk about it, but obviously most people didn't know enough and most people didn't care enough. Now it doesn't work. You can't be Progressive Accept Palestine. You can't just be like, listen, I'm a socialist in every way, but this National Socialist movement in Germany is actually cooking, okay? Like, I'm sorry. Also, why the fuck do you oppose Abdul El-Sayed then? You know? Because Shannon Watts opposes every politician that I work with, every candidate that I work with. It's a shame that Connie Chan said that you were a racist because I think she would need a huge grassroots surge to beat Wiener. We could help with that. I feel the same way about Nithya being so tentative. She also always attacks every politician that supports the policies he He's in favor of the most centrist. She's in favor of the most centrist them. She's lying. Yeah, I know. What about Plattner's tattoo? Can we trust them? But the alternative is bad. I mean, look, Plattner is out of our hands regardless. And yes, I do think that I think that he's sincere. I think that his criticisms of Israel are sincere. I think his criticism of American militarism is sincere. I know people won't believe it because of his background, because of his track record, because of what he's done in the past. I've already told you what I think about this, right? I'm actually kind of glad that we're not talking about Graham Plattner as much, because I feel like it makes people go crazy for some reason.
I would absolutely support Senator Sanders' bill to restrict military aid, but I'll be entirely honest, looking down the road, this is a nation that right now is exterminating people.
Like, I was thinking about this, like, with Jon Favreau shitting on Daria Lisa the other day, but also being a massive advocate for Graham Plattner. And it's like, dude, how are you gonna hand wave away a fucking totem cough while simultaneously be like, Daria Lisa is an anti-Semite because she went to a pro-Palestinian rally on October 8th? Like, that's crazy. I feel like I'm losing my mind a little bit, you know? Like, that genuinely doesn't make sense, right? It's kind of crazy, right? Like, because the thing is, I mean, misogynoir is how you do that. Stop playing. I guess that's part of it for sure. Or maybe it's because Plattner doesn't call himself a communist in public, but only in like anonymous private Reddit posts. White man didn't say fuck Kamala Harris. Come on, man. But yeah, he cooks here, by the way. This is so good.
It is going to be very difficult for me to ever be able to look at them again and see someone that we should be working with closely. An immense amount of work is going to have to be done, in my opinion, to fix that relationship, because what I am witnessing now is the height of horror. And the fact that it is being done by bombs that are built in this country and paid for with our tax dollars is utterly unconscionable, and it needs to end.
John is just racist and Plattner is not a threat to the establishment at all. He's a cookie cutter progressive. Daria Lisa is way more radical than Plattner. I mean, I don't think Graham Plattner is I don't think Graham Plattner is a cookie cutter progressive. Sorry. I don't think Graham Plattner is a cookie cutter progressive. I think you're wrong. I think Graham Plattner, especially with his with the way that he talks about issues on the campaign trail, is not cookie cutter. Like, Connie Chen is a cookie cutter progressive, or Diana DeGette used to be considered a cookie cutter progressive. Graham Plattner is on a way different frequency and probably a lot closer to Daria Lisa on many issues than you give him credit for. Okay? It's Graham Plattner's background and personal experience that actually is the red flag here, not what he's saying on the campaign trail. What he's saying on the campaign trail is great. Yeah, and also there's a lot of talk about like Daria Lisa's take on Russia and Ukraine. The claim that Chevalier seemed to justify Russia's invasion of Ukraine seems to refer to Chevalier advocating that U.S. engage in diplomacy to end the invasion rather than fuel a proxy war that prolongs it. That's literally where this is coming from. Yes. That's why I was so mad at Progressive Victory, like randomly being like, Daria Lisa and Claire Valdez are ambiguous about their position on Ukraine, and they have to be more in tune with the American State Department. It's one of those things where it's like, here's why the Track Ukraine stuff doesn't hit the same as like Track APAC, right? I know they're trying to like LARP as though is Track APAC. Not to say that like Russia's actions are Russia's actions are justifiable or anything. They're not, right? They're not. Russia's actions in Ukraine are totally unjustifiable. There are plenty of war crimes, and it's an illegal invasion of a sovereign state. Okay, but Ukraine gets support from the West, so all you're doing at that point is to try to, I guess, demand more support from candidates that might not have the exact same opinion on this issue as like Lindsey Graham. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you can't yell at people that want diplomacy on that front. That's an insane position to advance. That's an insane position to turn around and fucking, what is this? New official AOC alternative tier list. You should add a true wild card like Hassan Piker. Okay, guys. You guys want me to get fucking assassinated, I think. Except that's not the position of the State Department anymore. We're not sending them weapons or really supporting them at all right now. I think they're just placing a higher priority on Ukraine, to each their own, I guess. Yeah, I still think it's ridiculous because even without the American support, which I guess you are right. The Trump administration has like changed that dynamic quite a bit. But like, it's still NATO. You know what I mean? Why did he lose 10K viewers? What? I'm washed. It's over. People have decided that, yeah, I saw this. Content nuke. Hassan Piker becomes president.
We need.
I love that Uncle Jank has a legal case to make Mamdani president theory. Yes. What petty shit are you replacing DJT photo with when you become the commie president? What do you mean? What is his mentally ill reply to the tweet? I don't know. But I hope people understand, like, I also personally think that the Russia situation is more so the failure of Biden. And even then, there's like only so much that Joe Biden could have done in that situation as well. It's just like kind of outside of America's hands, if that makes sense. Because like it's kind of not dissimilar to what has taken place in Iran, right? It's more so America's downward trajectory as a declining empire that limits its enforcement capabilities, if that makes sense. Like, America and NATO are not going to go to war with a nuclear armed nation, and I don't even think that would be a good thing regardless. And obviously, Vladimir Putin is taking advantage of that and taking advantage of the diminished capabilities of Western empire to make regional decisions that benefit him, benefit his legacy. And America has real limits that it's hitting in terms of its sanctions regime, for example, because we've deployed it so much. We've deployed our economic sanctions so much that going up against an energy providing state, you know, a state that's a part of OPEC plus, a giant state with nuclear arms in this way and waging a proxy battle against them in this way is obviously going to destabilize the power that America has on you know, the dollar being the global reserve currency. Saxon Merch, the last few weeks say it looks like RU is prepping to strike an EU country, especially after Ukraine drone strikes on RU knows NATO is helping with. Yeah, it's a terrifying prospect, and I think it's a mistake. I think Russia expanding the field of battle and trying to punish the European countries for its allegiance to Ukraine is only going to make the situation worse for Russia. I think the greatest thing that Russia could do right now for its own benefits, not saying that I'm in favor of like, Russian irredentist actions or whatever, but I think the smartest thing for them to do would be to hold the space that they have and then come to the fucking table and negotiate with all of the European partners and create like a multilateral commitment. But instead, they're probably going to expand on. They're probably going to try to spread out the pains a little bit to punish, try to punish the European countries that are aiding Ukraine, as Ukraine has increased the severity of its attacks on Moscow, increased the severity of attacks on the Russian infrastructure, specifically around energy. I think a funny binary you can point to is how your fans obsessively beg you to run for office due to your strong political convictions like Roach, DDG, and even Hutch fans would literally never suggest such notions. Oh, that's, yeah, I mean. Not going to war with Ukraine would be smart. I mean, that was the initial thing that Russia should have done that they didn't do. What are you saying? Are you saying Russia will strike Europe? I don't know. I'm saying that it wouldn't. If Mersheimer and Sachs are claiming or are warning that Russia might try to spread the pain a little bit to Europe for aiding and abetting Ukraine, as Ukraine is now increasing the intensity of its attacks on Russian soil, it could just be saber rattling, because in the past, the extent of like Russia's punishments for EU countries have been cyber attacks, right? It's just been cyber attacks. It's never been like a direct attack on even NATO territory that's in Eastern Europe, right? I just don't know. I feel like it would be a stress test for America. Like, to what degree will America defend the Eastern Bloc NATO countries? I don't think there's a lot of interest from America to do that. I don't think America would do that, honestly. I don't see them doing that. And I think Putin knows that. And I think that's what he's stress testing. But yeah, I still think it would be a mistake. I don't think Russia has the advantageous position that it believes it has. I think it's in the interest of both Russia, Ukraine, and the European Union to come to the table for diplomacy and just, you know, try to find a reasonable conclusion to all of this. But, you know, that would require giving up Ukrainian territory, which I think Ukrainians by and large have more, like Ukrainians in the past were obviously understandably reluctant to do so. But I think as the conflict continues, more and more Ukrainians will say yes to that. Dude, Crimea should be given back. Fuck that. I mean, that is not even a position, I think, in Ukraine that is one that people are pushing for. Now that Ukraine has gotten so good at drone tech and has largely weaned itself off U.S. support, not their choice law, their hand is stronger than it's been in for a long time. They're still not going to take back all the territory, but this keeps up. They could probably negotiate from a better position where they don't have to cede territory Russia doesn't control, for instance. Yes. Kyiv Independent. The Russian-installed authorities in occupied Crimea announced a state of emergency amid intensified Ukrainian drone attacks. The statement comes a few days after large-scale Ukrainian drone strikes hit a railway bridge across North Crimean Canal, fuel facilities, and military infrastructure across occupied Crimea. Markham says what makes Crimea so defendable from ground invasion, few narrow entry points, also makes it more vulnerable to aerial siege warfare in the era of drones, diversified missiles, and Starlink. Ukraine won't retake Crimea, but they'll force RU to divert resources. I am Ukrainian, fully fluent in Russian, though, and I can't speak Ukrainian for shit, even though my father was born on the Black Sea. Ukraine is exhausted and war-weary, but the strategic strikes on Russian energy is starting to bring some parity to the exhaustion. There are regions of Russia which are now rationing gasoline to single-digit gallons per week per person. I think as far as like the game of attrition goes, Ukraine dishing out penalties to Russia of this sort is hopefully not going to lead Vladimir Putin into doing more dangerous escalations. But there is a likelihood that he will, because he's fucking insane. Okay? And the escalations in this circumstance would be to striking civilian areas, Israel style. Okay? Striking civilian areas, more civilian areas in Ukraine, expanding the conflict into Western Ukrainian territory, as Russia has done already and has been doing for the past couple of months. But then also on top of that, maybe even escalating into European territory to see if America or the EU would do anything about defending NATO territory against Russia without hitting Article 5, which they won't. Why do you say Putin is insane? I think he's super rational. He's just a nationalist and a monster. No, I say that because I still, to this day, maintain the position that his invasion of Ukraine was totally insane. I think there was always a much more reasonable way to maintain his security needs. Do what China has done. Make yourself an irreplaceable force as an energy provider in Europe, which he was doing already. Russia is a far more important asset for Europe and for the rest of the world than Ukraine ever could be, which means that invading Ukraine militarily and then failing to take over the rest of Ukraine and just hardening your positions on eastern Ukrainian territory is it was a flub. I think you grossly understate how much civilian targets RU attacks. Russia attacks apartments every day for 4 years now. No, I know, man. I'm not understating that. I'm saying they'll increase the intensity of their strikes on civilian territory in Western Ukraine, specifically on like civilian infrastructure, like oil depots and things of that nature, which they have done with the Oreshnik strikes that you see near Lviv and in further and further Western Ukrainian territory. Yeah. Now Ukraine is striking at Crimea again, it seems. At least I don't see many Z chatters anymore. That's true. Not a lot of people are pushing Z nowadays. Or maybe they are, but they've like quieted down a little bit. Is the plan for European states to continue supplying Ukraine with the ability to strike into Russia, homeland, a nuclear armed country, then expect no escalation? Seems like there's no plan. Yeah. Anyway, here is JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon talking about the dollar as reserve currency, which is America's greatest weapon. And obviously a part of the reason why America no longer can deploy this weapon or a part of the reason why this is now in contest is because of America's sanctions regime, specifically against Russia. That has tested the dollar as reserve currency, especially because they've created, like, it's not even just Trump, by the way. The greatest weapon that Trump seems determined to kill them out. No, it wasn't Trump. Obama did this too, and so did Biden, and so did Trump, and Trump won. The additional sanctions that America deploys, especially against very powerful economies like Russia, in comparison to all these other, in comparison to other countries, is quite literally the reason why a secondary market was formed. They necessitated a swift alternative.
About the dollar as the central reserve currency of the world.
Yeah, well, I'll make this one easy. If the United States is not the preeminent military and the preeminent economy in 30 or 40 years, we will not be the preeminent reserve currency. That is what it relates to. It also relates to our rule of law, that you can buy and sell dollars, you can buy a house, you can start a business, you can't do all that in China without the permission of the government. What you can do with your dividends and all the things like that. So it's still a very powerful thing. I mean, here's a IQ test. Ready?
Uh-oh.
If you could only invest all your money in one country, what country would it be? Yeah, there's only one obvious answer. And
China.
It's because of the dynamic economy. It's because you own the dollar. It's because it's a free country. We got rule of law. You can buy things. It's also protected by the United States military. Thank you, General Milley. It's protected by courts, the Atlantic and the Pacific. I was in a country in the Middle East, and someone was telling me that they were taking their gold out of the vaults in the United States, and they're bringing it here because they're pissed off at us. I was like, well, yeah, that's really great, except there are 3 armies who can come take your gold right now. And that is the world. And people forget, it's a tough world. That's real politics stuff. And so, yeah, you're safe today, as long as we don't ruin the free and Western world over time. So, but
this is indistinguishable from right-wing conservative propaganda on fucking Twitter. Yes, when push comes to shove, when we're talking about hard power, of course, everyone, no matter how woke they are going to arrive at the same conclusion because it's true. America is the global reserve, like the dollar is the global reserve currency because America is the largest imperial superpower around the planet. That's what it means when we talk about America being the world police. And America's the confidence that people have in America stems from America's military might. That's it. So technically, it's not wrong. It's just true. I love China. I'm the biggest China fan, but their capital export restrictions stop them from being the reserve currency inherently. They're open about it and don't want to be the world reserve currency. I agree. I know. But times are changing. I agree. It is in China's short-term and long-term interest to not be the global reserve currency right now. And that's the only thing stopping them from pushing for this. Yeah, China is too short-sighted. Come on, dude. You can call them many things, but short-sighted you cannot. They believe that in their developmentary process, they still cannot maintain, they still don't want to be the global, the hegemonic superpower in the same way that America is. You can say that they're being too restrained in their moves around the world, but you can't say they're being short-sighted. That's unironically, that's the opposite. BRICS sells seething right now. What about BRICS? Okay, what about BRICS? BRICS is an opportunity to gain leverage against America. BRICS is not a real block as it stands currently. What is the I in BRICS, dude? India. The fuck are you talking about? That's ridiculously wrong. The opposite is the case. EU companies have actually 3x more presence in the Chinese market than Chinese companies in the EU. That's according to EU's own numbers. The EU's investment stock in China, that is the total value of European Union companies' operations and assets in China, stood at $239 billion in 2024, whereas China investment stock in the EU stood at $79.8 billion for the same year. Just take cars, for instance. Everyone knows that the EU is making it incredibly difficult for Chinese EV companies to enter the European market. European car makers have been operating in China for decades. What is true is that China exports more to the EU than vice versa, but that's an entirely different matter. And that too, by the way, is often a reflection of China's openness to foreign business. Kristersson is Swedish, so let's take the example of IKEA. They make a huge proportion of their products in China and sell them across Europe. Are you going to make the case that means China is accessing the European markets at Sweden's expense? IKEA's entire business model couldn't even exist if it weren't for its production in China. It's certainly not in the EU that they could produce their ultra-cheap furniture. And incidentally, IKEA operates 41 offline shopping malls in China compared to 22 permanent stores in Sweden in 2025. So it has nearly twice as many stores in China as it does in its home country. If that were the other way around, we'd scream overcapacity. So no matter how you look at it, it's China that has that's far more open to European companies than the contrary. Politicians like Kristersson are conflating a trade deficit with market access, two entirely different things. Yeah, he says China often has access to the European market in ways that the European companies do not enjoy with the same ease in China. We cannot allow China to have one set of rules while European companies operate under a completely different set of rules. It's bullshit. The reason why every European leader complains about China is because European capitalists, Western capitalists broadly, okay, went to China and built it as the manufacturing hub of the planet. And now they're annoyed by it. They designed it for their own personal profit-seeking benefits for decades and decades. The problem is, unlike India, China took all of that foreign investment and developed itself to become a competitive superpower. That's the problem. As long as you take the foreign investment and then recycle it back to either, compradors or Western capital in some way, shape, or form, then it's good. But if you take all that foreign investment and develop your country and engage in even development, then that's an issue. Now you're actually a competitive power. We don't like that. That's where the factor of communism comes into play. That's where central planning comes into play. That's it. That's literally the only reason why these guys complain all the fucking time. China played the game that the Western capitalists had designed. They played it to their own benefit. What is this? New York Post finally got him. Zoran Mamdani jumps into New York City pool to kick off summer tradition while violating dress code rules. It doesn't matter if it's true, it feels right, and that flattens the Western chauvinism of Europe. The alternative is recognizing China's qualitative superiority. There's also the other side of this story. Europe wants to maintain a industrial base. And if you want to maintain an industrial base, if you want to keep developing things in Europe, then of course your allegiance with China is going to be on shaky ground. I don't know how to solve this problem, okay? I believe in diplomacy and I believe in working with China, but I also understand why this yields a totally separate problem. Totally separate problem for the European economy, the European markets, but also for America as well. For example, I'm in favor of the UAW. I totally understand why America maintains some level of trade protectionism when it comes to vehicle manufacturing, because it's one of the only remaining domestic industries that we have that isn't directly dealing with, new ways of murdering brown children. Okay. So I don't know how this works. I don't know how China keeps being the manufacturing base of the world and then develops better trade relations with Europe, for example. Because as long as China floods the market with affordable and competitive technology, specifically cars, for example, okay, then it's understandable that Europe is going to complain about it, especially because there is no way for Europe to outcompete China when it comes to car manufacturing. China's technological proficiency in manufacturing is far above and beyond Europe. It's not even close. BYD is manufacturing everything, every component internally. They make one car every 58 seconds in one of their fucking factories. There's no comparison in Europe, and there's certainly no comparison to that in America. It's fucking over. Okay? For most of human history, Europe, especially Northern and Central Europe, was an impoverished backwater, low agricultural productivity, low population that only changed because of uneven industrial development. When the rest of the world develops equal industrial productivity, why would Europe stay relatively rich? I'm not even saying that Europe should stay relatively rich. I'm just saying every country is obviously interested in maintaining its, maintaining its competitive standards, maintaining its quality of life, and maintaining its industrial capacity. It's an inevitability that China will destroy it. Europe return to Euro poor is not, you can't advocate for that. That doesn't make any sense. Why would any politician be on board with that? I'm thinking about it from, look, I'm not personally a Mersheimer head who believes in like offensive realism or operate off of a realist framework when it comes to international relations. But I also do understand that there is legitimacy to that framework. And I do understand why countries would make the decisions that they're making. Okay? I'm thinking beyond that. I'm thinking beyond that framework and wondering out loud, how Europe could potentially develop a better relationship with China without having severe quality of life adjustments, which they're already facing no matter what because of their allegiance to America. America uses the European Union like a fucking cum sleeve, okay? Like a fleshlight. That's why Europe's quality of life has diminished since the 90s. Since the Soviet Union fell, the European trajectory has been downward. And America's trajectory in comparison to Europe has been a little bit better, but American trajectory has also been downward as well. All the while, there's one group that has benefited from it. It is the capitalists. The capitalists have benefited from this tremendously. They have added unbelievable amounts of wealth. There's been a tremendous amount of wealth consolidation in the process. Their relative wealth must decline, but their absolute wealth and quality of life can improve for normal people. Exactly. That's why I always say if America or Europe wanted to compete with China, they would have to become China. If China wants to continue trading with the world, it will need to eventually increase its consumption and imports. This is something the leadership recognizes as well. Europe will begin protectionist measures, and other countries will become more protectionist as well as they develop. China will continue its export advantage for the foreseeable future, but they will need to balance it just a little bit, or industrial economies will shut them out. China also has a domestic problem because all of this development inside of China has led to the same exact development traps that European countries and the United States of America has withstood. Okay? Now they have an overproduction. Now they have too many fucking college-educated people, for example, and no jobs for those college-educated folks. They also have, they also run into the same issue as other developed nations have run into as far as their birth rates. This is also the reason why China obviously is helping develop Africa and Latin America, because they want new customers. That's the reason why the One Belt, One Road initiative exists. That's what they've been doing. They want to develop Africa so they can set up secondary markets in Africa. And they've done so very successfully. But again, there is a timeline there. There's a limit to that. There's an endpoint there.
Lights out.
What? Are you referencing Xiaomi's dark factory and tooling and medium assembly automatically overnight 24/7? Yes.
Hey everyone, it's Faye from Xiaomi. Welcome to our molding workshop. It's fully automated.
Bro, their fucking workshops are insane, dude. That's the other problem. What will she do? Okay, this whole idle hands are the devil's work mentality that Xi Jinping has, his anti-welfare mentality, unironically is going to cook the next generation, because what the fuck are they going to do? They can't even work in the factory anymore. That's also a problem. People need jobs.
It even runs in the dark. These machines read data in real time and adjust as they work. Robotic arms pick up every part. AI cameras check the surface. No missed spots, no shortcuts. And the result? Every plastic part looks almost the same. Honestly, watching this line run by itself, I cannot stop looking at it. Next, I will show you how steel takes shape. Stay with me. Lights out.
What?
Hey everyone.
Anyway. Will we maybe see an explosion in the arts with so many people freed up from manual labor in China? I mean, look, if you ask me, that's their biggest L, in my opinion. They're too focused on their own markets, and they also genuinely want to control culture. Like there's far too much control over cultural output. So who knows? You're just an addicted consumerist promoting your drug. Please stop. Wait, what? Take it easy on techno solutionism. It's a farce that perpetuates extractivism. It's moronic and short-sighted. Oh my God, here we go. In my opinion, Europe can only survive if it leads to profound transitioning to environmental. Okay, degrowth. Okay, Kohei Saito, dial it back. Okay, dial it back a little bit. Jesus Christ. They know that, and that's why youth unemployment was a prominent point in the newest 5-year plan proposal. I know. I'm just wondering out loud what they will do to solve the youth unemployment crisis, because it is a fucking crisis. I have confidence. I have perhaps too much confidence in not only Xi's vision, but I have too much confidence in the Communist Party of China as far as like what they've done so far, I look at their track record. I look at the development in China, and I do believe that they will solve these problems inevitably. I just don't know how they will do so. Okay? Like, if China is a transitional socialist state, as they claim to be, okay, what shape does socialism with Chinese characteristics take in the next decade? How do they solve some of these issues? There's also a lot of opportunity, like, because there's a lot of sectors that still need a lot of investment in China. Healthcare is one of them. Okay. I think elder care will probably be another one as the Chinese population continues to age. So there's a lot of opportunities for internal investment, and we shall see where they go with that. But I always wonder, if you have a youth unemployment crisis and you're steadily automating your developmentary process, where are these guys with college educations going to go? Where will they work? They need work, especially in the absence of any kind of welfare system that the Chinese government has always been against, right? You're kind of a cunt for bashing degrowth. No, man, I'm not. But that chatter is under the global capitalist system. The only thing that holds society together is constant consumption. Okay. Unfortunately, it's too idealistic to be like, yeah, we should just make people not want to consume things. Like, that's crazy. Americans especially rioted with weapons because they couldn't get a fucking haircut during COVID out of necessity. Okay. Like, I have short-term goals here as well as long-term goals. Okay. Degrowthers sometimes come across as like, you know, prison abolitionism tomorrow chatters. You know what I mean? Can you imagine going to the countryside and being like, excuse me, we have to really reconsider our consumption choices. Like, people literally lie about the Green New Deal and make it seem like AOC is going to come to your house and beat you to death if you eat a hamburger. And you're over here talking about degrowth. Anyway, let's look at the new Justice Democrats ad that came out about Diana DeGette.
It's time to play Who's Funding Diana DeGette? ICE contractors, the companies helping Trump deport our neighbors. Big oil. As Colorado burns and floods, DeGette took their money too. Big pharma. While your healthcare costs skyrocketed, DeGette cashed their checks. While Trump cuts everything working families rely on, DeGette doesn't just look the other way. She votes with a special interest bankrolling her. With Diana DeGette, corporate interests win, you lose. Justice Democrats PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Anyway. No, talk about China's move to apply its laws to ethnic Chinese living outside of China. Wait, what? I want to know what you think about China's plans on applying its laws on ethnic Chinese living abroad. Wait, really? I assume you saw this. I wasn't here. Yes, I did. It's not, I mean, it's the most expected outcome, of course. We put socialists, we bring in socialists and then they grow the movement and they help elect other socialists. That's how it works. Socialism is in 2050, she said. Are we just sheep being led where the financial sector wants us to be led? They want Israel to be abandoned. Oh my God, this guy is literally, yes, dude, certainly. One of the fucking sectors that is perhaps most involved with Israeli investment and is totally secretly trying to abandon Israel. You got it. The fuck are you talking about, man? You even advocate to boycott Israeli companies and you know, you basically got cops knocking down your fucking door. Shut the fuck up. Contentious day to day. Weekends are always like that because the crazies come out because there's not like the usual 30K in here. So we just hear from some of the craziest people over and over again. They keep fucking spamming the silliest shit. Do you see how many people hated on Jeffries for welcoming our Tuesday winner? Somebody Zionist in the comments. Hakeem Jeffries, congratulations to our newest members of the New York City Congressional Delegation for Public Service, the union organizers, community activists. So there's something interesting happening with Hakeem Jeffries and the Congressional Black Caucus. I've noticed. Elisa Slotkin came out and not only shit on Chuck Schumer, but also shit on Hakeem Jeffries. And then the Congressional Black Caucus came out and ripped Elisa Slotkin a new one. And it was kind of cool to see. Here's the problem, okay? The Congressional Black Caucus has been a part of the entrenched power in the establishment Democratic machine. But in the past, they were fairly radical, okay? Now, the issue is what they have become is not so radical. Statement from the CBC chair Yvette D. Clark and former chair Stephen Horsford and Joyce Betty in response to comments made by Elisa Slotkin. With respect to our Senator Elisa Slotkin, House Democrats don't need a lesson on reading the political moment from someone who handed Donald Trump one of the most corrupt cabinets in American history. Voting to confirm Kristi Noem, Pam Bondi, and 5 other Trump cabinet secretaries is not the posture of someone who understood the moment. Apparently, Slotkin did not vote to confirm Pam Bondi, but everybody else. Okay? Never forget, the Congressional Black Caucus chose Hillary Rodham Clinton over Barack Obama. Now, obviously, Barack Obama isn't like the progressive hero in his governance as he presented himself as, but at the time, he was the insurgent, and the CBC pushed for Hillary Clinton over Barack Obama. That shows you exactly how the CBC operates, okay? Now, will the CBC change its attitude and go back to more historic radical roots? I don't know. Only time will tell. I don't think so. But as you have seen, the Democratic Socialist movement is actively working to refill the ranks of the Congressional Black Caucus with true radical Democratic Socialists. Ironically enough, this is the same dynamic that I have maintained. This is the same dynamic that I've mentioned, right? That like there are other Democrats you've never heard from, that are just like regular establishment Democrats that are in the Congressional Black Caucus, for example, that will just as easily caucus with the new plank of power within the Democratic Party because they're not as like ideologically minded and diehard defenders of third-way neoliberalism. So if things move in that direction, who knows? I just don't think Jeffries is going to be the guy who will push for that change because he is specifically groomed. He is specifically groomed by Nancy Pelosi for this position. If this is true, then maybe we should ask the establishment if the establishment is really serving the interests of black people because they're standing in the way of all of it. Yeah. One of the biggest problems with the CBC, with the Congressional Black Caucus, is that it's one of the biggest like boomer coalitions out there, and they have been an impediment to new black voices coming into Congress, or at least the type of black voices that are coming into Congress being, you know, establishment Democrats for the most part. Okay? Like there's less young black voter participation. There's young black participation in politics in general. And I do think that the entrenched power that the Congressional Black Caucus represents within the Democratic Party is unironically a big factor in that. For like the last couple of decades, the CBC has been pretty fucking aggressively a loyal soldier of the entrenched power within the party. Clyburn is obviously a great example of this, but the way that the Congressional Black Caucus has moved has been another great example of this. Now, this is also true, though. Here, this is something that Michael Hardaway brings up. The policy DNA is the Black Caucus. The marketing is Democratic Socialist.
Mamdani and the DSA, these are just reheated Congressional Black Caucus policies over the last 55 years. I mean, housing affordability, healthcare. I mean, John Conyers, who's a founding member of the CBC, introduced a Medicare for All bill 23 years ago. And so these aren't new things. And
so that's Sean is absolutely correct. Says if this is true, then maybe we should ask if the establishment is really serving the interests of black people because they're standing in the way of all of it. There's a reason why many of the DSA endorsed candidates recently are black. There are inroads the Black Caucus can and should be building, but they are not. One must ask why. That's true. Chris Rabb, Maylon Quiros, Daria Liza. The saddest state of affairs is that the Congressional Black Caucus has been a representation of entrenched power within the center of the National Democratic Party for the last couple of decades. It's just true. Yeah, Frederick Haynes is another great example of a black radical. Like, younger black voices that are not invested in the continuation of third-way neoliberalism have been totally fucking cast aside. There is an expression of this exact enmity that you see with Black Zionism on Twitter. It doesn't exist in the real world that much, but you see it on Twitter all the fucking time. There's like a fedayeen of black academics who hold on to Zionism for some fucking weird reason when there is no real expression of that sort within the actual black working class, right? It almost feels as though the black socialists are treated in the same way that like anti-Zionist Jews are by the Zionist groups, invisible, completely invisible, and sometimes even outright hostile. Where there's this attitude that if you're a DSA cadre and you're running for office, you're only elevated to that position of power by white people. Like, maybe I'm being a little too harsh, but I've seen, I've been on the receiving end of a lot of these attacks. And it's interesting, like, you know, Jamal Bowman is a great example of someone who was cast aside and not defended. Cori Bush is another great example, right? Is Democratic Party careerism? It's not complicated. Dwight Evans, the old Philly rep, fought tooth and nail against Chris Rabb. Yeah. Gregory Meeks fired up after DSA wins big in New York City. Meeks is upset by Espaillat loss. The goal here is to win the majority, not being in a permanent minority. Even though the mayor endorsed someone else, is a huge loss for the mayor and trying to get the resource from DC. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. The problem is Gregory Meeks always has the drip. We have to respect that. Yes, I do respect his drip. Yes, he is swagged out of his mind. But also, he's an expression of, again, entrenched power within the Democratic Party. A U.S. representative that has received almost $1 million from pro-Israel PACs. This is unacceptable. I think you're searching a too complex explanation. The reality is that boomers are ontologically evil. I mean, it's low-key. It does go back to generational politics of the boomer inability to let go of even a crumb of fucking power, to open up new pathways for a more radical politics. And for the Congressional Black Caucus, it's usually done with some kind of like racialized sentiment. I've seen that online a lot. Lots of black Democrats saying that Jamal Bowman and Daria Liza are tokens. Yes, they despise Cori Bush. They yell about Jamal Bowman all the time. I haven't seen it as much coming at Chris Rabb so far, so that's cool at least, I guess. Because like Chris Rabb's victory is undeniably a black victory. Not only is Chris Rabb a black radical, but also on top of that, he is from the blackest district, one of the blackest districts in the country. So it's a little bit ridiculous to be like, oh, white people gave Chris Rabb the W there. You know what I mean? So I guess maybe that's part of the reason why. But I just think it needs to be, it needs a good communication to the black community as well as a firm show of commitment to fighting anti-blackness, because there's weariness that may keep some black people away from the DSA and socialism. Also, most black people are down with socialist policies, but they have this conservative mindset of being somewhat palatable to the white sentiment and power. I agree. But yeah. Chris Rabb also won the plurality of black voters in his district. Yes, I know. But so did Daria Liza. And there's not a single fucking peep on that front. When you publicly attack a black woman on a platform, people call you token. Here we go. Here we go. Barack Obama was a plant, and you speak as if he was more progressive than Hillary. Obama was a flip-flopper, I remember. So you're defending the Congressional Black Caucus, advocating for Hillary Rodham Clinton over Barack Obama, okay, while simultaneously also criticizing Daria Liza for saying Kamala Harris was bad. That's what you're doing right now. That's insane, because even the Congressional Black Caucus is ashamed of their previous defense of Hillary Clinton over Barack Obama. Barack Obama is, I think, perhaps the most important black political figure in contemporary American history. That's an insane statement coming from Enfant Dor. Congratulations, Enfant Dor. You did it again. Enfant Dor, our wonderful pro-black segregation chatter. Your retelling of events is inaccurate to me. What's inaccurate? What is the point to the inaccuracy? Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton, aided by her allies in the Congressional Black Caucus, sent notice on Friday to Senator Barack Obama that she would fight for black voices. Representative Carolyn Kilpatrick, chairwoman of the Congressional Black Caucus, invited Clinton to speak to activists and youth voters taking part in the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation's annual legislative conference. Obama will host his own forum on climate change and global warming later in the day. Clinton's event led to complaints from some black lawmakers supporting Obama who consider her appearance divisive. Under CBC rules, only its members can hold forums. They argued that Kilpatrick and Kendrick Meek, chairman of the CBC Foundation, paved the way for Clinton to have her own forum. Kilpatrick has not officially endorsed Clinton, but Meek has. While introducing Clinton, Meek dismissed criticism of her appearance at the What's at Stake in 2008 event. This is just a continuation of her public service, Meek said, adding that Clinton has attended the event in the past years. Clinton, standing between Kilpatrick and Meek on a stage with a midnight blue background lit up tiny white and blue lights, took questions from the audience members, the first of which concerned environmental racism. Perhaps a subtle acknowledgement that Clinton would cede no issue to Obama either. This was a huge deal at the time. And there was a split. There was a split within even the leadership of the Congressional Black Caucus, because of their interest in endorsing Hillary Rodham Clinton over Barack Obama. Okay? The event had the feel of a Sunday morning church sermon mixed with dry policy seminar. Kilpatrick began introducing the lawmakers in the audience. She's a bad sister. She's a Delta. She's got the Deltas in the house. My friend, our leader, Stephanie Tubbs Jones. There's always concerns about Barack Obama that extended beyond the CBC blindly supporting the black guy. Oftentimes, people are pragmatic and center how to win the best outcomes. We never had a black president, and you recall things like it was a more simple explanation. Why are you literally still defending this? He won. It was demonstrably a bad fucking idea. He won. He was the president, and a beloved one at that. What the fuck are we talking about? You're literally defending the CBC when CBC would not defend this decision. What the fuck? I'm not going to cover the ethnic unity law right now, man. Please, Jesus Christ. Oh my God, I get it. You want me to cover the ethnic unity law? I don't know what it is. I'll have to look into it. It's so funny to defend like this. Like, I'm literally talking about the CBC defending entrenched power and making far more conservative decisions than the constituency that it serves, okay? Because the constituency it serves demonstrably voted overwhelmingly for the first black president, okay? I'm literally bringing up their conservative maneuvering here and how they were at odds, with their own constituencies that they are supposed to serve. And you're literally saying, no, it was the right decision, when the CBC currently doesn't think that it's the right decision, or did not think that it was the right decision at the time. It was controversial. They were wrong, but there was no way to know that he would win. My only point, you are insufferable sometimes. I'm insufferable. You're a fucking idiot. You literally are making my point for me, but you're doing it in a contentious manner and defending it, when the institution would not defend this decision now with hindsight. The whole point of this is the CBC's inability to give up on entrenched power and adopting more radical policies that would be beneficial for the constituents that it's supposed to be serving. Jesus Christ. That's the argument here. I never defended it. That was your framing to get your rocks off. You are literally defending it right now. You're saying that they had no way of knowing Barack Obama would win. And my point is that was a bad decision. And it also went against the interests of their constituents. And it also went against the voting patterns of their constituents. That disparity is the problem here. And they're doing it again. Instead of adopting a more radical framework coming from younger black electeds, okay, that are rising through the ranks of the DSA because they saw no way of getting that expression through the regular mainstream black political route that the CBC is still defending and endorsing. And that is at odds with the base. That's my point. Yeah. Also, you were wrong, Enfant Door, when you said Daria Lisa would lose and black voters would not vote for Daria Lisa because she said fuck Kamala Harris. Remember that? And you were wrong about that. So why do you keep finding yourself on the wrong side of arguments? Perhaps you should focus on that a little bit. Anyway, by the way, streams are no longer in your list by number of concurrent viewers, but instead how frequently you watch them. I do believe that's another nail in the coffin. Arguments against multi-streaming. That's what's going on. Is that why people don't see me on their fucking playlist now? Or as they used to in the past? Is that what it is? Anyway, like I don't want the Congressional Black Caucus to represent the worst elements of entrenched power within the Democratic Party. Now, people, no matter what I say about this, people say, oh, of course a white guy would say this, right? That's my problem. So we'll see. It's a either shit or get off the pot situation. Either you make way for more revolutionary politics, more radical politics in this country that will center the black working class. Okay? Or you'll constantly find yourself making the wrong decision over and over again, opposing these new black candidates that are coming into power. Now, of course, the CBC is on the right side with Elijah in Florida against Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who is making an unbelievable decision that even Hakeem Jeffries can't fucking defend. So he's at odds there with the CBC is at odds with what the establishment candidate is trying to do. So we shall see. We shall see what they do there. That's a big test. Okay? That's a big test for the CBC. Will they take a black district and allow it to go to Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who is, you know, a super pro-Israel candidate? Or will they focus on electing someone who is black and critical of Israel? Because right now, the way it goes, the way it looks, is that Elijah Manley has the greatest opportunity in Florida 20. Okay? Running for Congress in Florida 20 to restore the American dream, organizer, history nerd, and educator. Elijah Manley was in Broward DSA when he was like 18. Okay? And the Broward DSA, I think, disbanded. He is running as a Democratic socialist. Debbie Wasserman Schultz is carpetbagging in Florida 20, a black opportunity district, instead of running in her own. Debbie Wasserman Schultz is everything that's wrong with the Democratic establishment, from insider trading to payday lenders. I look forward to retiring her from public office permanently. Okay? Elijah Manley is openly running as a Democratic socialist in a black opportunity district that Debbie Wasserman Schultz has moved into. And it is so controversial that even the Congressional Black Caucus actually criticized Debbie Wasserman Schultz over it. It was so controversial that regardless of Debbie Wasserman Schultz's position as like, you know, a defender of establishment Democrats, a neoliberal who rat fucked Bernie, if you recall. Even Hakeem Jeffries, who is supposed to be another gatekeeper of power in the Democratic Party, as the most powerful black politician in the country right now, Hakeem Jeffries is not endorsing this decision. Okay? So right now, this has become a very unique predicament. Will the Congressional Black Caucus defend a more radical black candidate that has real viability here and could win this district and most likely will win this district, hopefully, Elijah Manley? Or are they going to defend Debbie Wasserman Schultz and still play the role of an establishment guardian? Because this isn't like, I mean, it's pretty obvious what's going on here, right? It's pretty obvious what's going on here. Do they have alternatives to Elijah? None of which that have, none of the other candidates have actually made an impact on this race in the same way that Elijah has. Elijah has been leading, okay? So much so that the rest of the black candidates actually thought about coalescing their support behind Elijah. I don't know what actually ended up happening. But he's running on a anti-Israel platform. He's running for Medicare for all. He is one of these insurgent candidates that's a little bit on the outside. He's not like currently DSA affiliated, if I'm not mistaken. I don't want to get it wrong, but he was in DSA in the past when he was younger, and he's still running as a democratic socialist, like saying that he is a democratic socialist. Yeah. Everything Wasserman Schultz says becomes a bit funnier when you remember that she's carpetbagging to a plurality black district. Yeah. Also, just got the nod from Ro Khanna as well. Once again,
I'm Congressman Ro Khanna. I am so proud to be supporting Elijah Manley for Congress. I'm supporting him for two reasons. One, he's standing for black political representation. At a time of Calais, we need to be making sure that young African Americans are winning seats that are majority African American in the South. We can't have people carpetbagging into these districts. We need to stand up against the Supreme Court for black political representation. This is going to matter not just in Florida, but the entire black South. What do you think?
I mean, yeah. So my two plays in the South, if you want to consider Florida to be the South, which it is, right, is obviously Justin Pearson in Memphis and is Elijah Manley in Florida. Like, I think those guys represent a change. I hope they don't disappoint me, but I do think that they represent a significant change. Obviously, Oliver Larkin. I'm talking about guys. I'm talking about black candidates in the South. Okay. Charles Booker as well. We're talking about black representation, black political representation that represents a different kind of politics than what we have seen in the South. And yes, actually, that's not true. There's more. There's Cori Bush, and there's Hartzell too. Booker's in the Midwest. But you see what I mean.
Think, Elijah?
I think the congressman said it best. We must protect our voice in Congress because the people with the lived experience know our communities best. And those voices right now in Congress are more important than ever before as they attack.
Please have Hartzell on stream. Casey's a big city and we need a boost for him. It's a hard race. Wow, that's really interesting that you say that because I'm going to have him on stream tomorrow. He's going to be in the building as well. Ironically enough, Kentucky's considered a southern state. Missouri is Midwestern. Okay, whatever. I'm a fucking bi-coastal elitist, okay? It's all, don't even get me started.
Our rights, our economy, and our community.
Second reason, and the important reason I'm supporting Elijah, is he's a bold progressive. He's for Medicare for all. He's for childcare at $10 a day. He's for taxing the billionaires and the tech lords in my district. He's for a livable wage. He's for free public college. He's against foreign wars. He's against the genocide in Gaza. He has guts. And we just saw earlier this week a wave of new generation leaders winning in New York. We've seen them winning in Michigan and Maine and New Jersey. We're going to have this win in Florida.
Pitch in. If you want to see me working hard with Congressman Ro Khanna under his leadership in the House of Representatives, pitch in a contribution today.
He needs your support. He's got a great shot to win. Please contribute to him. Please vote for him. I'm all in for his race. I'm going to go down to campaign for him. We need Elijah as a next.
What is this? Can you respond to
You're
this?
arguing that
12620. I haven't watched this Dave Rubin one, but I kind of want to watch it. 12620.
this is time we need to come together.
This is what you want me to respond to? Yeah, Dave Rubin is a fucking moron. And I didn't say either of those things. Analysis is not endorsement. And that's it. I oppose adventurism. I love that Bud Hassan has become a rallying cry for these fucking morons. Yeah. Also, Dave Rubin is so stupid that he basically says, I'm not even endorsing these actions. I'm saying I'm offering analysis, even in his to it. All right. Anyway, yeah, Blackhawks chair Yvette Clark and former CBC chairs cooked Elisa Slotkin, because Slotkin suggested Schumer and Jeffries need to step their game up to stay leaders, which, by the way, again, it's a let them fight situation because Elisa Slotkin isn't wrong. I think Hakeem Jeffries has been a horrible leader. Okay. But also, if the CBC is going to cook her, especially because she also represents that same old business as usual, do nothing Democratic politics, then, you know, let him fight. Let him fight. It's ironic that someone who is also representative of the same old type of politics is turning around and complaining about Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer. It's literally you. You're doing that. You have done so. So then the CBC turns around and cooks her, and I'm like, all right, I'm on board. Oh, Black Redgar saw the Hartzell for Casey and announcement. Glad to see bro out west getting some love. My face when I already raised them 20,000. Money Mike. Yeah. Yes. Listen. I'm gonna have him on. I'm gonna have him on the broadcast. We're gonna talk. I mean, I've already had a conversation with him before. With on the progressive victory thing. Dave clutching his pearls. Rubin posted an MC Hammer meme after Pelosi was assaulted, so he isn't just being honest about his own reactions to violent events. Yeah. There's also AOC interview on MS Now. I know we're gonna cover that. Where was I? All right, we'll get to that. Let's start there.
Joining me now is Democratic
24-minute interview with Psaki. I call that a Psaki bomb, baby. AOC talks new Democratic primary with Jen Psaki.
Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New
Hassan, I misjudged you. You're an actual socialist. Thank you. Where did this come from? What made you change your mind?
York. Congresswoman, thank you for being here with me tonight.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Let me start by just a lot of people, not just in New York, but across the country, there have been a lot of takes, shall we say, are trying to make sense of what the elections meant, what they mean for the Democratic Party. What do you think they mean?
You know, I think that these elections mean, of course, they are reflections of the constituencies and communities that elected them and that rendered them. And I can say absolutely, at least in the city of New York, voters are just really ready for a Democratic Party that stands for something and has a very strong agenda to make our lives easier, to tackle corruption, to lower costs, to make healthcare a right for every American, to raise wages, to make unionizing easier in the workplace. And they want to make a forceful statement in how badly they want to see us fight for that. And I think that in any robust year for Democrats, I believe you're going to see an expansion of a party and a deepening of our commitment. And so I actually think that these results are a very good sign for November. To your point, when I was elected in 2018, an election like mine, where voters were willing to really, trade in someone that was supposed to be the presumptive next Speaker of the House in my predecessor, and trade that in for also a Democratic socialist, a new organizer at that time. I think that is actually an indicator of places in other parts of the country willing to elect Democrats, even if the politics are not the same, even if those communities don't align with those same exact agendas. They are willing to take a chance for a better future. And so I don't think that people should be seeing this as a zero-sum game. I think they should be seeing it as encouraging for November.
It's interesting because even in the state of New York, and you alluded to this, I mean, Michael Lasher, you probably don't share every opinion or position with him. You definitely don't share every position, I don't think, with Richie Torres on a number of things. Both of them won in primaries that night. I mean, Michael Lasher in a very competitive one. Do you think this is because, and I just played some of what people on the right wing are saying on television, that this is an over.
What is this? Honestly, this might be it for me. I'm tired of waiting for a song. Like, I don't have anything better to do. Clearly, he doesn't respect our time. Oh, God, you're so stupid. You're so fucking... God damn it. The fucking copy pasta. So dumb. The dumbest copy pasta of all time, dude. I took a piss break. Stop memeing. Stop memeing. No more memes. No more joy. No more joy. No more memes. Fucking got my ass. New Hogwatch, Jordan Clipper at UFC. Oh, that could be fun.
Twerking of the rise of democratic socialism and not enough of a focus on the broad people who won? Or how do you see that? Because you're a democratic socialist yourself.
I mean, I think that the one thing that we know is that the Republican Party's brand is fear. And they have to constantly churn what they want people to be afraid of. To be afraid of socialists, to be afraid of immigrants, to be afraid of women, to be afraid of... They constantly want Americans in fear of somebody. Because if you are not afraid of someone who is your neighbor, you're going to realize who's actually pickpocketing you. And that is the large corporations that are engaged in profiteering and jacking up your prices for no good reason. It's going to be in this administration that is engaged in record levels of swindling, thefts, tariffs, your housing. And so this is kind of their new thing of the day. But I think that people are feared out. I think that everyone's nerves are shot in constantly being taught and told of what country, person, community to be afraid of, and they just want a solution. They want their groceries to be more affordable. They want to figure out how we're going to get health care. They want our housing to get under control. And I think that we're ready for an affirmative vision, and we're ready for an affirmative agenda.
You talked about this week kind of how the fear-mongering, you had deja vu, I think is how you described it. And you just alluded to that and what you just said now. What advice are you giving or would you have for these new members who are coming in and are already being painted in a certain way? And I want to talk about them too, but what advice do you have for them about how to get things done while still shaking up the system at the same time?
Yeah, I think new and incoming members have no shortage of advice that's being given to them.
Well, but you lived it.
Yes,
you lived it in a very different way.
Yes, and I mean, I'll get to them, but I actually think the more important advice that I would give would be to my incumbent colleagues, which is you will create a self-fulfilling prophecy by deciding who these young women are before you've met them. And if you are already panicking and sending little messages in your group chats about how these people need to be reined in and tamped down and shown their place, you are creating the antagonistic dynamic that we do not need. These are two young, talented, intelligent women that got elected against all odds, against millions of dollars. Perhaps there is something we can learn from them.
The people chose them. And democracy and the Democratic Party is about what the people pick. It is not about any elected official or any leader, and I believe that. There are, and I want to ask you about this because I think they are being painted in a certain way. And Daria Liza, specifically, who is going to be a member of Congress, I think people should recognize. They are going to win in these districts. She has said a couple of things, and I think for people who are watching right now, I just want to remind them of that. She attended a pro-Palestinian rally in Times Square the day after the Hamas attacked Israel. She said...
I can't believe that this is like genuinely a position that MSNBC, which is supposed to be the most like liberal outlet, is still advancing. Like, oh, she was right, but too early for our taste. Okay, well, you were wrong. Why are you still maintaining the position of being wrong, but too late? It's so strange to like punish people for being right, but too early. I think it was Kavernickel that said, any day after 1948, where you attended a pro-Palestinian rally, you would be on the right side of history. Okay? Any day. It doesn't matter if it's October 7, doesn't matter if it's October 8, doesn't matter if it's October 6, 2023. Any day past the point of 1948 where you attended a pro-Palestinian rally, you are technically on the right side of history, okay? Doesn't matter. So what are we talking about?
She was worried about an outsized reaction that cost thousands of people their lives. She has not backed away from attending that rally. She deleted a Twitter account that had a number of posts that called for the abolishment of police and prisons. According to CNN in 2021, this is what there's a reference to. She posted, a world without borders, just like a world without prisons or police, is possible and necessary and the only moral way.
Wait. I apologize for misjudging. I'm extremely dumb and thought Hassan was a poser because he lives in a mansion and I thought he hoarded wealth. I saw everything you did for New York primary and I really trust you now. I'm planning on signing up for DSA now. Oh. Yeah, I mean, that's just one element of what I'm doing. But hey, we take those. We take those. And he wants to join the DSA. And he wants to join DSA. It's good. Double victory.
Forward. She's again, has said those posts don't reflect who she is today. You do not speak for her. You speak for yourself. And I know she's tried to distance herself. She's probably under a greater level of scrutiny she's ever been in her life. But does any of that give you pause?
I think that, as you said, she has indicated that she has regret over the way that she issued those statements. And I genuinely believe that the gravity and the responsibility of this role has a way of inhabiting you. And I genuinely believe that we have to give people the opportunity to occupy their beliefs within the gravity of becoming a duly elected member of Congress. And I think that in the process of running for election, in the process of getting to know your constituents, it's very different than when you're only speaking as an activist or years ago or whatever that may be. But I think where we are right now is that the people of New York's 13th district have elected her. And she is responsible and has absolutely, I think, expressed a sense of responsibility in how she wants to lead. And so, again, I would say, I think it's important to not issue a verdict before these folks arrive. And
controversial take, maybe in this community. I think that's a good statement. You have no idea what she's going to do. You have no idea how she's going to govern. And you're trying to make assessments off of like a 20-year-old shit posting on Twitter on how she's going to govern. It's so stupid. It's so ridiculous. It's not a bad answer at all. She's not going to be like, oh, Daria Lisa was based when they're accusing her of being anti-miscegenation. I think a better answer also on top of this would be like, these are the statements of a 20-year-old organizer who's like understandably frustrated with the way politics is unfolding, right? An inability for our elected representatives to actually make these changes that Daria Lisa was demanding. Her frustrations being expressed in Twitter only show that, you know, only expresses the desires of not just Daria Lisa, but millions, tens of millions of Americans who are sick and tired of business as usual politics And unlike those tens of millions of Americans, Daria Lisa actually chose to be the change she wanted to see. And now she's going to become a wonderful congressperson, you know, who will push for those bold changes. That's it. Your statements are more concise. I'm sorry. AOC and I have the same exact problem. We are never concise. The one who does this best is Zoran. He is the fucking LeBron James of quick and quippy messaging. I wish I could hold a candle to his level of skill in this field. He is very precise and has perfected the art of sound bites. Okay? Why are you so rude? It's just true. I know my skills. I'm very good at filling time and filling space for 8 hours. I'm very good at, I think, convincing a lot of people on the way I see the world, especially the way I see the world that is like totally unique and new for many Americans, or used to be, becoming not as unique now. So that's good. But you're long-winded and boring, but right? And AOC's long-winded and milquetoast the best. First of all, I'm not boring. I don't think. That's crazy. You watch me for fucking 8 hours a day and find it to be entertaining and find it to be educational. And then you turn around and say, I'm fucking boring. Fuck you.
You know, I went through the same thing. I will never forget. I had this moment. There's, you know, everyone sees the floor of the United States House of Representatives on C-SPAN or whatever when we're casting our votes. But there are these little rooms attached to that floor, and it's known as a cloakroom. And in the cloakroom is where members can rest in between votes, or if you need to get a snack or something. And they have televisions there. And I remember in my first term, I was sitting down on one of the couches, and there was this big television screen. And they're going on and on about, you know, the way that they were clipping something that I said out of context to look extreme and to look far more inflammatory than what it was, and most importantly, who I am.
Yep. This is also an area that she has unbelievable expertise in. Because if you are outside of the confines of permissible ideology in American politics, you are going to be inundated with the worst smears of all time. AOC certainly is. If you're outside of the confines of permissible ideology to the left, right? Because you can go as far right as you want pretty much without, reaching the level of, reaching above the level of permissible bigotry as like Nick Fuentes does, right? Like if you're Tucker Carlson, everybody will still accept you in polite society. No matter how far right you go, you can talk about, cultural genocide or the great replacement taking place, white people being undermined, whiteness being undermined. It's white supremacist agitprop, and you can get to do that without people making a big deal out of it. But if you are to the left of the confines of permissible speech, permissible ideology, if you're a socialist, if you're a communist, if you're an anti-imperialist, if you're a prison abolitionist, oh, God forbid, you're a radical, they will destroy you. And they will use some of the most heinous smears to exaggerate your positions or to even take your jokes at face value and make it seem like you're not joking at all. Obviously, I have a lot of experience in this field as well as AOC.
And I remember sitting next to a congressman, my colleague, a Democrat, sitting next to me on the same couch. And he was looking up at that television screen in disgust and just shaking his head. And I was sitting there right next to him. He had never once struck up a conversation with me, but he had made a judgment and determination of who I was. And it was incredibly dehumanizing. I was met with so much hostility and cruelty by the Democratic caucus when I was first elected. And I think that it created so much more antagonism than what was necessary in that.
Yep. Straight up. What is this? God forbid a man have a little misogyny as a treat. I know a guy in the misogyny business. He says they get more leftist and Hasanabi chatters coming in the store than you'd think. guy who's at the misogyny factory giving me props for creating a robust market of more misogyny enjoyers.
Time. And so I think that both ends of this.
It's so funny, by the way. Like, obviously, this doesn't mean this is not a defense against misogyny, but like, I've almost exclusively worked with female candidates this season. Like, there are far less male candidates that I'm trying to get elected than female ones. Not that that means anything. Obviously, that's not the end all be all. It's like saying, oh, how could I be misogynistic? I wanted Hillary Rodham Clinton to be president. That doesn't mean that you're not misogynistic, right? That's not a good enough. That's not a sincere academic defense, but it's one that actually probably works with a lot of people. I'm the one man working at the misandry store. Yeah.
Relationship require work, right? Both ends require a stepping up and a certain magnanimity for us all to get what we want.
Yeah, if anything, no white candidates recently either. Hashtag noticing. No white candidates, only women of color. What's going on? Back in the day, the Democratic Party's caucus was filled to the brim with white men. White men were powerful. White men were on top. Nowadays, you go on the Hasanabi broadcast, and all the candidates that he's advancing and endorsing are women of color. What's going on? Are we being erased? I certainly think so. Who's jacking off to this?
Done. I'm an unabashed progressive, and I want to guarantee health care to every American. That's my agenda. That's why I'm in this business. And there are other Democrats that don't agree with me, and that's all right. They know what I'm after, and I know where they're at. But what I'm not going to do is allow my humanity to be erased, and I don't think that these newly elected officials should have theirs erased either.
I think what you're saying, what I'm hearing you say, is you think people should give these people a chance and see what they do when they govern. And the challenge seems to be that you, as a leader of this movement, as one of the leaders, are going to have to make sure this doesn't define what the movement is about, I think.
Yeah, that's the rule. That's the goal now. Erasing white men from video games was not enough. Now they want to erase white men from Congress. They want to take away the power from the hands of white men. What's going on?
So listen to what they're saying now. Everyone's talking about pulling statements and things from years ago, but they just ran an election. Listen to what they've been saying now. Listen to what they ran on now. And the mandate and the message that they gave their voters, because that is their voters' expectation of them. And so I would say for every one statement from years ago that someone wants to pull up, please pull up 5 of what she's been discussing in her debates.
I want to talk about where things go.
I think the other counter to this that's also more effective, and I will stand on this, is that, like, her worldview is more empathetic and closer to justice, if not totally just, than the average American congressperson. Like, the average American congressperson is perfectly comfortable with maybe not mass deportations, even though on the Republican side, they clearly advance that agenda, which is heinous. It's monstrous. But even the average Democratic congressperson is comfortable with a level of deportations that are totally inhumane, as opposed to the alternative, which is conditional amnesty, right? I would much rather have allies that I might not fully agree with on the side of truth and justice than allies that are comfortable with tens of millions of deportations. Okay? That's it. We have to expand the permission structure and allow more radical voices on the left to be able to advance their agenda. What is this? What? I've been waiting for... I was being sarcastic. Chill. The Jews are trying to replace the white man. Okay, dude, you can't you can't say that when I'm doing Tucker Carlson voice as though you're also doing a Tucker Carlson impersonation without people, there's no context there. You understand?
From here, because I think there are so many hopes, probably from every person watching, anybody out there who's concerned about what they're seeing from Grandpa in the Oval Office to happen right now, about what Democrats will get done. And I know you've said in the past you would support Hakeem Jeffries for Speaker, and you can tell me again if that remains the case. Senator Slotkin, who I would say is one of the Democrats that you may agree with on a lot, you may not agree with on everything, I suspect. She had this to say. She said, we need significant new leadership. If people can't recognize that the game has fundamentally changed and can't adapt, then they need to make room for others who can. And she was referring to Jeffries, and she's, of course, in the Senate, to Schumer as well. What do you think about that? And what do you think Jeffries needs to do to prove that, if you think he needs to do anything to prove that?
Well, I think that anyone who says and issues a statement like this, I think it's important for them to get prescriptive about the changes that they want to see. I've been pretty clear about where I think the country should go. I think that we need to move forcefully to guarantee health care to every American. I think we need to move forcefully towards raising wages and taking on corporate corruption and profiteering. But there are a lot of folks who talk about change in leadership that don't necessarily articulate what their direction is. And so I would say that it's important that when we talk about change, we talk pretty specifically about the kind of changes that we want, because there are a lot of people in this country and there are a lot of forces and lobbyists that want the Democratic Party to become even more pro-corporate than it is. And so not everyone talking about change is talking about the same thing. And so when I talk about change, I talk about orienting the Democratic Party to be unabashedly working class and to orient itself, again, around working class Americans. And I think that part of the conversation, because it's kind of in vogue to be talking about change, when people aren't prescriptive about what those changes need to be, I think we need to be asking further questions.
I read just a part of what she said. I take your point. Do you still feel, though, if Democrats went back to the House, that Hakeem Jeffries is the right person to lead?
I've engaged in many conversations with Leader Jeffries. And for me, and we have a broad caucus, right? For me, I have made very clear that one of my priorities in determining and in a leader determination is securing public housing financing for New York City. And
this tweet is a good answer on why AOC supports Jeffries. I actually like AOC's answer about Jeffries because she at least keeps him accountable to a specific policy, which she had no leverage or room to do with Pelosi. Caucus votes have never been on the left side anyway. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest issue I have is that she's not ambiguous about. She's unambiguously in support of Hakeem Jeffries, and I don't think we should be rewarding him in any way, shape, or form. Although maybe there is an opportunity here because Lisa Slotkin shitting on Jeffries opens up a new fucking fight between establishment Democrats in the Senate versus the Congressional Black Caucus, and that's good. I like that because the Congressional Black Caucus is an unbelievably powerful force in Democratic Party politics, okay? So any kind of friction between establishment Democrats and the Congressional Black Caucus, which is a power center of establishment Democrats, is good for us. It's great for us, as a matter of fact. Established Democrats are ideologically centrist, so that friction means nothing. You don't know that because I just showed you another serious battle taking place in Florida 20, where the Congressional Black Caucus is at odds with the other factions within the establishment Democrats. Debbie Wasserman Schultz carpetbagging into a black district to be the face of this black district instead of black representation. It's power plays. It's just politics. They're playing politics.
And Leader Jeffries has made his prioritization for the residents of public housing very clear. And for that reason, I will be supporting Hakeem Jeffries for leader.
You know how this works. We have to take a very quick break. You've been so generous with your time. We're going to stick around. First, I just want to play you something quite telling. You may have seen this, but it's been a busy day. In case people haven't seen it at home, that Speaker Johnson told a room full of Christian conservatives at the Faith and Freedom Coalition's annual summit today. It's quite something.
If we were to lose the midterms, heaven forbid, these Democrats, y'all, impeachment's not even the big concern. They will turn every committee of Congress into an investigative body, and they'll go after the president's family, the cabinet, his donors and friends. Half of you in this room will be targeted. I run the protection program. I'll take care of you, okay?
I'm going to get your thoughts on that when we come back.
Yeah, he's Mr. Epstein defender. Holy
We're
shit.
back with Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Okay, before the break, I played a clip of Little Mike Johnson, as I like to call him, laying out how a Democratic majority in Congress would investigate the president, the cabinet, donors, and friends. It all sounds, I think, probably to a lot of people watching and a lot of people out there who were infuriated by the level of corruption, pretty good. But you've also talked about a lot of things you deeply care about. Healthcare, affordable housing. I know there are many other things. What do you see as the right priorities, balance of things, especially as it relates to investigations and accountability? Where does that fall and how much time should be spent on that?
I mean, I, of course, I spent many years on the oversight on the Oversight Committee in Congress, which is in charge of investigations. During the first Trump administration, I helped, I helped on the investigation of Michael Cohen at the time, which led to a record settlement from Attorney General Tish James. But I think that it really is it genuinely is a situation of we can walk and chew gum at the same time. There are certain committees that I think will be spearheading real investigations into this administration. There has to be accountability, and it has to be because we cannot allow this level of corruption to consume our public service in our government ever again. And the only way that you allow that, or the only way that you set that precedent, is by aggressive investigation and consequence. And oftentimes, some of the things that do come out in congressional...
Josh Gottheimer is dodging you? Yeah, I know. I saw. So that is the Promise to America. Okay. What is this? Felix Frisch, director of the Promise 2026. Yeah. The Promise to America said, comrades, congrats on your big close primary win in a district Kamala won by 59 points. We'd love to hear your objections to the content of the Promise to America. Let us know a time that works for you to Zoom next week. I said, send me Josh Gottheimer, Playboy. They didn't respond to it. DSA said, see you on Hassan the Hun's stream. They did respond to the Democratic Socialists of America. Okay. To the DSA, they responded with, where is it? Comrades, giving millionaire Hassan more viewers on his Amazon-owned platform would be too capitalistic. We offered Zoom and you're accepting. We celebrate July 4th over here, but anytime Wednesday works for Felix Frisch, when works for Ashik Siddiq. Okay? To which I responded with, you can't platform someone that has a bigger platform than you. I'm sure Josh Gottheimer would appreciate teaching a bunch of young radicals a lesson in electability and the importance of moderation. If you're confused about why DSA is winning, perhaps this bundle of content-free cliches peddled by a bunch of people on the take from AIPAC will shed some light on the phenomenon. Yeah, Joshua Reed Eagle, who does communications for Liberalism Organization, liberalism.org, who's on the board of Project Liberal. Yeah, I saw Denver Post allowed an op-ed to be written from the perspective of a Jewish woman voting for Melot Kuros's courage and love for all humanity. We're going to get to that in a little bit. That's coming after this Denver Post opinion editorial. Here's why Melot Kuros's candidacy scares me as a liberal Jewish woman in Colorado. A bit column A, bit column B. Check that first reply to the, what is it? Ha ha ha. You are so angry you got called out on your grift. Always a big, strong communist until those capitalist dollars come calling in before a bunch of chode riding sycophants storm in defending Hassan's honor. father, husband, Catholic. I feel like this is a bot. No. But yeah. Will they respond to this? I don't think so. But we shall see. Papist big mad. What is this? Are the Democratic Socialists winning Democratic primaries actually Democrats, or are they just using the party infrastructure to get on the ballot? Democratic Socialists of America co-chair Ashik Siddiq joins Katie to discuss. Pretty funny seeing all these DSA people on the news now making the news host look ridiculous. Yeah, I love it personally.
Actually Democrats, or are you just using the party's infrastructure to get on the ballot and then take over the party?
Well, something we think is really important is democracy. Democratic is in our name, and we mean that by the small d democratic. We believe in democracy in practice, and that should be a core value of the Democratic Party. But in practice, they haven't really been operating in a democratic way. The Democratic Party, especially in recent decades, has become pretty beholden to mega donors, to people representing big tech, representing fossil fuel industries, representing military-industrial complex, weapons companies. So that is increasingly distant from the voting base of the Democratic Party. We think that the Democratic Party is its voters, or it should be. But in practice, it's been all these donors who are shaping what the politics are in Congress and in the federal government, and increasingly in local politics. So we mean democratic. Like we want to organize democracy at every level of our society.
Democrats.
We want the I mean, we're running as Democrats. We're operating in a
Winning as Democrats, not just running, winning as Democrats.
democratic way. So if the Democratic Party leadership feels like that's a threat, then I think they're the ones who aren't Democrats.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because another co-founder that you guys have, Gustavo Gordillo, said that you guys are you admitted that you're using the infrastructure that the party has set up for ballot access. And that's what you're doing. Is that fair to say that that's what you're doing? You're not actually Democrats. You're using the process that's already in place to gain power.
No one cares about the brand, okay? What are we talking about? This is not like Nike versus Adidas, okay? No one cares about the brand. Clearly, the voters have appetite for this kind of politics, a real hunger for this kind of politics. One must ask the question why people who have voted Democrats their whole lives are looking at the options where they have a Democratic Socialist on the ballot, and then they have an establishment Democrat on the ballot, and they're going, oh my God, how refreshing that I can vote for someone who actually champions the causes I fucking care about. I believe that these people have an investment. That's what they're saying. It's not like the DSA candidates are running and they're running on the Democratic ticket by duping voters into voting for them by being like, oh yeah, just if you vote for us, we're I mean, I don't even know what the fucking analog would be here. It's so stupid. The real question is, why have the Democrats lied about advancing an agenda that is so closely similar to the Democratic Socialists of America's agenda? Why have they lied about that? Because they clearly haven't delivered results. That's it. It's so stupid. For years and years, they told us, oh, you cannot vote for a third party. What do you mean? You want fascism to win? You can't vote for a fucking third party. What are you doing? Right? So then we run in the party and they go, no, you can't do that either. At a certain point, you got to realize like, oh, they just want establishment Democrats that are beholden to corporate interests to control the party, to be the only viable option. We knew that already, and we're stress testing that reality right now.
Power.
Well, we would ask everybody, including voters of the Democratic Party, of what are Democrats? You know, like, is it just you're attaching yourself to people who you think sound good on TV, or are you voting for people who represent your values? Mm-hmm. The Democratic part, again, like when you're voting, what are you voting for? What do you want to see in practice? What do you want to happen in government? So the policies that we're representing, and yeah, we run as Democrats, we I mean, I don't think I personally identified as anything until when I was 18 years old. I voted for the first time for president. Obama was actually the first president that I voted for, and I was very happy to vote for him at the time. I was very against the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. I believed in hope and change at the time that he was campaigning on. And then I didn't see a Democratic government deliver on a lot of the promises at the time. So many people mobilized for the Obama campaign, including me. And we were really inspired, and we wanted to deliver on those promises. So that's what we're about. That's what millions of Democratic voters are about. And people are not seeing the Democratic Party deliver.
Oh, it's about the policies, man. That's it. It's about the issues. It's about the policies. And it's clear that more radical politics is something that the base wants. Turns out it's not so radical. Okay?
About expanding democracy in every part of our lives, and we want to democratically handle how militarized our society has become. Why does the United States spend $1 trillion on a military budget while we can't repair roads and bridges, while we can't provide for childcare for everybody? We should be funding babies and not bombs. Why does our government spend billions of dollars per year on the state of Israel while it's doing genocide, while it was already enacting apartheid?
Israel's not committing a genocide.
You know, like I was raised to
Oh, that's awesome.
believe in Israel is committing a genocide. Israel has killed tens of thousands of civilians. Many of them are children and families. And we see that happening. We saw it live streamed for 2 years, and we reject that. We don't think that should be happening anywhere in the world, and we don't think the United States should be funding it. I think we are about expanding democracy in every part of our lives, and we want to democratically handle.
Israel's not committing a genocide. Okay. Sure. Yeah. Classic now. Yeah, pretty revealing that what galvanized centrist Dems was losing to a couple DSA candidates, not, for example, losing to a bunch of corrupt fascists who want to end democracy. Yep. They're used to losing to the fascist right. They're comfortable losing to the fascist right. That's their favorite type of loss. What they will not stand for is allowing a more honest and more representative democratic process to take root within the Democratic Party. What they will not stand for is reinstilling confidence in the base of support that a better future is possible, that you can have politicians who actually are responsive to the needs of the masses, who actually will hear their demands and say, you're right, we will fight for it. That's it.
Damn, this guy's good.